Before we stand for that, I'll just note that today is June 14th, Flag Day. And so an exciting opportunity for us to celebrate the symbolism and history of the American flag. The U.S. has celebrated this since the early 1900s when President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed June 14th as Flag Day. So Councilmember Martinez, would you be so kind as to lead us in the pledge today?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Madam Clerk, before we go into roll call, I'll also note it is both a celebratory day for those of us in Nevada who followed the Golden Knights to victory last night in the Stanley Cup, which is exciting. And also this week begins 2 weeks of festivities for the rodeo, ergo my attire today. So exciting week to be here in Reno and in Nevada.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. With that, we'll move into roll call for the June 14th meeting. Councilmember Breckus, absent at this time. Councilmember Doer.
Here.
Martinez.
Here.
Ebert, absent at this time. Taylor.
Here.
Reese.
Here.
Sheevy, absent at this time. Vice Mayor Reese, you do have a quorum of the Reno City Council.
Just barely, and I think we've got another one coming down the hall. So please mark my colleague, Councilmember Ebert, as being present.
Thank you. So this morning, our next item is opening public comment. So we're now opening item A3, public comment. It should be noted to those in the audience that comments are to be addressed to the mayor and council as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the council's agenda. Please note that council may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you're called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name, and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting, please raise your hand at this time. And lastly, while in this room, please be respectful. Warnings will be issued by the presiding officer if there's disruptive behavior, and you will be asked to leave chambers if the behavior continues. Our first commenter today is Par Tolles, followed by Terry Brooks, followed by Alexis Motorex.
Good morning, Vice Mayor and council friends. I'm here on behalf of, Doug doesn't know I was going to do this, but I know it's, I think, your review week, and I wanted to personally thank you for what you've done for the development community over the last couple of years that you've been here. We expect when the city manager is hired that they're competent and intelligent and friendly. And Doug certainly meets that criteria, but more than that, you've put together what I think many of us think is a dream team and the best team that we've worked with in the last 25 years between Angela Fuse, Chris Pingree, Eric Edelstein, Jackie Bryant. We feel a level of participation from you all that we haven't felt before. And it's just really heartening. And more than that, we feel like when the lunch and learns you've put together, the proactive way that you've addressed us so that we can address our frustrations and you can address your frustrations with us has been really collaborative. And in a world right now where politics is not so collaborative and fairly partisan, you've been a breath of fresh air and your team has, and it actually causes us to want to be more creative and lean into trying to do things that maybe we wouldn't have done before because we feel like we're heard. So just wanted to publicly thank you for that, Doug, and thank your team also. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, Par. Appreciate you. Terry Brooks.
Good morning. It's me, Terry Brooks again. And today I'd like to render on the act of discrimination when it comes to education and gender. When I was a kid and went to public schools, they allowed both girls and boys. I was really glad they did. I was overcome with joys. There at that time, only girls were allowed to go to 2 small colleges. There was a large university for boys only, so girls could go to the 2 small colleges. But by the time I graduated high school and went to the university, they allowed both boys and girls, and I fully appreciated the diversity. And later on, one of those small colleges where only girls could go to started allowing boys to attend, so I could go there too. When I had gone to that university, all my instructors were men. But then when I went to that small college, my instructors were women as well as men. I had learned a lot when I went to that university, and when I went to that small college, I learned even more about diversity. And years later, I went back to that university again, and this time I had more women instructors than I had who were men. And in a lot of classes, our instructors would divide us into discussion groups. I noticed that there were both girls and boys in each and every one of those groups. So in those mixed discussion groups, we all learned from various points of view. And the more we listened to each other, then the more we knew. And by going to different classes with different genders as teachers, we could learn even more with different perspectives of features. So eventually mixing genders in education was well done. Not only did we learn a lot more, but going to class was a lot more fun. So gender in education has improved, that much I know. But there are other factors in which we still have a ways to go. I would like to thank you all for listening to me today, and I appreciate the diversity that I see here today.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh,
Brooks.
and this is chapter 9, just so you know. I've only got 37 more chapters to go.
Thanks, Terry. Ms. Moderax.
Good morning. My name is Alexis Motorex with the Nevada Chapter Associated General Contractors, representing the commercial construction industry in Northern Nevada. I'm here today because the city manager's annual performance review is on the agenda, and I want to give you our thoughts. We have nothing but good things to say about Mr. Thornley and the job he's done as city manager. He's surrounded himself with an amazing staff who work with the business community. They are more responsive, more engaged, and more willing to find solutions as partners rather than treating business as an adversary. He's brought fresh energy and perspective, something we're all grateful for. We hope that you too can see the value he's brought and the positive changes he's responsible for in our fabulous city. And while I'm here, I also want to give a shout out to Nick for a job well done this session. It's not easy representing local government in Carson City, and he did an excellent job. He's knowledgeable, responsible, and overall fantastic to work with, and I look forward to working with him in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the kind words.
Simon Ruvalcaba, followed by Barbara Fenn, followed by Gabriel Ruvalcaba. Barbara Fenney.
Good morning, Barbara Finney, representing Valleywood Park, Waterwise Park, and I am here once again asking for the city to support our endeavors to put and replace the larger signs that are at Valleywood Park. They are sun-faded and barely readable, and if we have any leftover money to be able to put more tags on the pollinators, of which they're spectacular at this point. So thank you.
Of course.
And Miss Fenney did donate some beautiful flowers from her garden to the Reno City Council, so I will bring those up here momentarily.
Beautiful.
All right. Simon Ruvalcaba, followed by Gabriel Ruvalcaba, followed by Michael Duncan.
Ruvalcaba family, come on up. You can all three come up together if you'd like to. I know that's a special moment for you today.
Just Michael and Gabriel, apparently.
Simon Ruvalcaba and son Gabriel Ruvalcaba, Michael Duncan, local bowlers that are going to be representing Reno and Indianapolis in a couple weeks, and just wanted to thank the city council for the recognition, for recognizing them, and for all you do for the local athletes and local youth, doing good things in the community.
To you.
Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to say thank you for giving us youth bowlers this day, and thank you for supporting us on our journey.
I just want to thank Mayor Sheevy for acknowledging the junior bowling accomplishments that we have achieved.
Gabriel, why don't you stay up there for a minute, because I want to, and you can adjust that microphone. It moves all the way around. I wanted to read something very special for you that, and your coach can come up too, Mr. Duncan. The mayor was not able to be here this morning. We'll be here a little bit later, but she had a proclamation put together for you, and I'm going to go ahead and read it into the record. It's long, so I'm not going to read all of it, but it's really nice to see the both of you and your family here in Chambers. It is an important sport. Bowling is something that we're very passionate about in the city of Reno, but it's more exciting for me that it's to see youth bowlers too as well. So, and especially two that are dressed in rodeo gear today. So we got rodeo bowlers. So I'll read the proclamation and then we'll try to take a picture up front. It says, whereas in 2021, Gabriel started bowling in the youth league. Since then, he has become committed to the sport and has already accomplished placing in the top 3 in tournaments. And whereas Gabriel placed second in the teams division, doubles and all events division 4, and third place in the singles division 5 in his first Nevada State Youth Tournament in 2022. That same year, he went on to win the local Top Dog DAWG first place U12 division qualifier for the Junior Gold Tournament to represent Nevada in July of 2023 in Indianapolis. And whereas Gabriel has been working with his bowling coach, Michael Duncan, since the summer of 2021 and is looking forward to attending college and competing at the collegiate level. Whereas Michael has participated, placed, and won numerous adult youth events, local and junior gold league, Storm Youth Championships, PBA junior qualifiers, junior gold championships, true amateur bowling tournaments as an adult, NorCal State events, Pro-Am with the Pros, JBT Junior Bowling Tournament, YBA, Youth Bowling Association, City Master State, and local memorial events. Very impressive. And whereas Michael currently works with Victory Bowling Services Pro Shop under Orlando Spencer, and whereas Michael has much success with accomplishments of 6 wins in the Top Dog, he currently holds the Nevada State High School records. And finally, whereas Gabriel has been working with you, Mr. Duncan, since the summer of 2021, now therefore I, Devin Reese, on behalf of Hillary Sheevy, Mayor of the City of Reno, Nevada, do hereby declare Wednesday, June 14th, as Junior Bowling Accomplishments Day in and for the City of Reno. If you two gentlemen would be so kind as to come through this rope line here, we'll have you come up here. We're going to stand up here on the dais, but would like to take a picture if you don't mind. Madam Clerk, thank you for the indulgence, and now we're back on track.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Reese. For the record, we do not have any public commenters via Zoom. We did receive 11 comments, which were general in nature and not directly associated with an agenda item today, prior to 4 p.m. yesterday, June 13th. These comments were written correspondence received via our reno.gov online public comment form or by email to our office. Copies of these comments have been distributed to the Reno City Council and are available for the public on reno.gov. 2 letters of opposition, 9 letters of concern. Additionally, we did receive 6 voicemails. Those transcriptions have been provided to the Reno City Council and are part of the permanent record. We are closing public comment and moving on to item A4, approval of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Manager, do we have any changes to the agenda today?
So far as I'm aware, we have no changes to today's agenda.
It's a miracle. Can I get a motion, please?
Yeah, motion to approve the agenda as stated.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Dewar, a second by Mr. Martinez. Any further discussion on this item at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we're moving on to our B items, our consent agenda. So we're looking for any disclosures and then items to be pulled.
Okay, let's start with that. Any disclosures from my colleagues? Seeing none, I'll close that item. Any items? Madam Clerk, may I ask also, is there any public comment on any of these items? No public comment at this time.
No public comment registered. Thank you,
Thank
and
you
I'm
so much.
sorry.
Let's start to my left. Councilmember Ebert, do you have any items you wish pulled for discussion?
B20.
B20? B20? Councilmember Dewar.
Yeah, I have a few. I'm not going to pull some. Usually I pull items over $1 million so that our residents know some of the big ticket items we're working on, but there's quite a few of those this time and that we're at the end of the year, so I'm just going to restrict to B16, B17, and B19. Let me see. And B34 and B36. And most of these are just brief, but when I have a request for presentation.
No problem. I don't have anything. Councilmember Taylor, anything? Mr. Martinez?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion on the remaining items, please?
Motion to approve?
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Martinez, a second by Councilmember Dewar. Any additional questions at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Item B16, I
Yeah.
think.
Thank you. I pulled this item because I just want to commend the staff for acknowledging and focusing on the important issue of senior transportation. You know, I've had, and I think many of us have had, older people in our lives, and I've had older people in my life here in Reno, and I know that transportation for seniors has been very challenging, and we're going all the way back to the 70s. So going all the way back to that point, it's been very hard for seniors to get to medical appointments. A lot of times they can't get to the bus stop. It might be a half mile away, and that might be just fine for many people. But I'm assuming, and I guess I wanted to make sure I understood, that this would include the city. Is there someone here to speak about this? I'm sorry, is that you? Do you want to come up?
Good morning, Noemi Martinez for the record, and what questions?
I
can
just
help
wanted to
answer?
know, what will the $200,000 pay for?
Sure. So, Neighbor Network of Northern Nevada, short for N4, will be leading these efforts. As discussed on April 26th of 2023, we got approved for our $1 million. Of the $1,200,000 will be going towards senior transportation. What this will cover will be vouchers for Uber and Lyft. Participants will be given $80 a month to be able to use to go to, whether it's medical appointments or activities within the city of Reno. It is restricted to city of Reno senior residents, and they will be having access to help combat the transportation barriers that we have here in the city.
Okay, well, I can't say enough about this, and I'm so glad that we've taken this to the next level. We're not just with City Lyft anymore, we're Uber and Lyft. And presumably that means that these seniors also need to know how to order an Uber and a Lyft on their phone. So I assume some training might go along with that. I don't know.
Absolutely. There will be a concierge program there that they will provide. They can't access the smartphone aside from training as well on how to order an Uber or Lyft.
All right, well, I think it's fantastic because one of the greatest challenges that I've seen seniors experience with like City Lyft is a 45-minute wait to be picked up, get to their doctor appointment, 45-minute wait to get picked back up to get home, a long drive home. The whole thing could be easily 3-4 hours just to go to a medical appointment that might last a half an hour. So being able to have this targeted transportation, I think, is amazing. And I think I heard you right. It's from the $1 million that we approved for seniors?
Correct.
Through ARPA. Okay, well,
Yes.
fantastic. Good work, everyone. Good work, Noemi.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? I'll make one comment, Ms. Gomez Martinez. Fantastic program. Let us continue to consider the impact it will have on our riders in Uber or Lyft that are visually impaired or also transporting with a service animal. So I received an inquiry overnight. One of our frequent attenders of meetings and riders had a sort of a bad experience. The Uber was not really accommodating to the service animal. And so I want to make sure that any of the trainings that we have help to address that particular access issue. And I'll leave that to your team to figure that piece out, because I think you've got great feel for this issue. And so just flag it for you as an issue.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Dewar, can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this item.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Dewar, a second by Councilmember Taylor. Any additional questions at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Item B17, Councilmember Dewar.
Yeah, thank you. Item B17 is to support operations at Village on Sage Street. And I wanted to make sure that I knew which operations, if this is focused on our next 100 units, or is this something for the existing Sage Street?
Hi, Jana Litz for the record. So these operating expenses are actually going to be covering the current Sage Street for fiscal year 22 and 23.
So what are we paying for?
We're paying for the operating costs, which not all of the operating costs, but they're going to put $650,000 towards fiscal 22 and $350,000 towards fiscal 23.
Is there an expectation that in 24 that they will also need supplemental funds?
I'm going to defer to Monica Cochran for that one.
Good morning, Monica Cochran for the record. It is anticipated when the expansion happens that there'll be an economy of scale for them to go forward without needing additional support.
Okay. And I'm sorry. And what is the status of the eating options there at Sage Street?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
The eating options, so the cafeteria, the place that you buy food or get food there at Sage Street.
Currently, they have a area where there's tables, microwaves, things like that, and some food to go. I can't remember, Roundabout Bakery, I think, has...
Well, is it Rounds?
Rounds, yeah, and then they can, folks that live there, if they so choose, they can buy that, heat it up, and eat it in the common area. It's like a cafeteria, common room type area.
Right. I just didn't know. I know it's gone through some transition, and that's why I just wanted to do a quick check-in. And the other check-in I wanted to do, because I've been pretty passionate about this, was I asked when we did Sage Street to have 25% of the rooms available for pets. And I just wondered, how's that working? Do you know? And I saw Mr. Tolles here. I don't know if he's still here, but he may or may not know. Oh.
I'll have to get the answer to that. I don't know what the status of pets are there. I know there have been some folks that had service pets, but we'll have to check on that and get back to you on that.
Okay. Mr. Tolles, did you know offhand? Okay. Well, I would love to you can send it with a council memo. That would be fine. But I think, I'm chair of Washoe County Animal Services. And so I'm always thinking about the pets in every scenario. And one of the scenarios has to be, or has been, the role of pets and service animals with our under-sheltered population and their resistance to moving places because they can't bring their pet. And that's why I was so passionate about making sure we had this option. I wondered how it's working, and I'd appreciate a report on that.
Okay.
Okay, and with that, I'm prepared to make a motion, but...
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Dewar, a second by Councilmember Martinez. Any additional questions at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay.
Item B19, Councilmember Dewar.
And sorry about this. I guess
You
this
don't have to be
particular
sorry. This
agenda
is
had a
why-
lot of stuff I was interested in.
This is why we do the work we do.
So B19, as I understand, and I see Suzanne coming up, is, and I want to make sure, so maybe Suzanne could come up and explain, is this our new community solar? And if so, could you just give everyone a little synopsis of this project? I think, first of all, could you just say yes or no?
Justin George, Senior Civil Engineer. I've got a presentation to go over
All right.
background and what we're doing with
Okay,
this project.
that's
if you'd like.
fine. But could you just say yes or no? Is it our
Yes.
community solar project. So the reason I pulled this, believing it was, is I just wanted to let council know that this is the first community solar project in northern Nevada. So it's remarkable. We've talked about community solar for a very long time. My understanding, and you'll get into the presentation, is that what this will do is generate electricity through solar panels on a covered parking lot, and then residents that live near there will be able to apply. And the only thing I don't like is annually, but I can't love everything, but apply annually to get lower cost solar energy from this facility. And I think the site was selected because it is a mixed area where we do have some lower income residents that could qualify potentially. So could you just go over this? And I hope this is not the last, the first, but not the last to come. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Vice Mayor and council members. I'm Justin George, Senior Civil Engineer for Public Works. At the direction of this council, and due to a lot of hard work from our team, I'm happy to present the construction contract for award to Sierra Nevada Construction for the Grant Drive parking lot reconstruction project. I have a short presentation to shine some light on the background, scope, schedule, and cost for this project. So this slide is to highlight the overall schedule we've been tracking for this item. Back in September of 2021, the city applied for and was selected as a host site for Nevada Energy's community-based solar resource program. In April of 2022, council approved the utility lease agreement with Nevada Energy for the installation of solar carports at the Grant Drive parking lot and authorized appropriation of $1.5 million in general funds for improvement to the Grant Drive parking lot. Here we are today, ready for construction of the parking lot and for Nevada Energy to install the carports and solar arrays. This all needs to be done before the deadline of December of this year from the Public Utility Commission for Nevada Energy's community-based solar resource system to be commercially operational. I'd like to give you a quick recap on what Nevada Energy Host Solar Program is. The community-based solar resource program places an emphasis on environmental justice by offering a solar subscription option to residents who would otherwise not be able to obtain solar energy due to cost or lack of space. Nevada Energy will build, own, operate, and maintain the solar array and carports at the parking lot. Image A is an example of a solar carport. This one you may be familiar with is on the corner of Washington Street and West 2nd Street. Not a community-based program, but an idea of what we're looking at as far as carport solar. Image B is the solar site plan from Nevada Energy showing the carports and solar arrays for the Grant Drive parking lot. To flip the switch and get the meter running backwards, let's get oriented with the Grant Drive parking lot. This aerial is of the Moana Springs parcel, which is south of West Moana Lane and between Grant Drive and Baker Lane. The parking lot is the highlighted area below Fire Station number 3 off of Grant Drive. The primary function of this parking lot is to serve the Moana soccer fields. So these photos here are included to show the existing conditions at the Grant Drive parking lot. With all the pavement talk and presentations we've been having lately, you should be pretty familiar with the pavement condition index. As a reminder, the pavement condition index scales from 0 for failed to 100 for excellent condition. The PCI for Grant Drive parking lot is 12, which is very poor. So prior to the installation of the solar carports, it's in the city's best interest to reconstruct this parking lot to correct the very poor PCI. So this will help us minimize the difficulties, increased costs of waiting to reconstruct the parking lot after the carports and solar is up and operational. Public Works bid this project according to city policies and state regulations. And I want to get back to the main reason I'm here today, and that is to award a construction contract to Sierra Nevada Construction for $1,088,700 from capital project funds to reconstruct the Grant Drive parking lot. You may be wondering what parking lot construction includes. And what we have to do with this parking lot is bring it back up to current codes. So we have a parking lot that's approximately 77,000 square feet or 1 3/4 acres. And this project, like I said, will bring the parking lot up to current codes. Not only are we reconstructing the driveways, sidewalks, and asphalt pavement, we are also installing new pedestrian accommodations from the right-of-way, a new ADA ramp down to the soccer fields, new irrigation, new landscaping, and new stormwater improvements. So drilling into the Grant Drive parking lot reconstruction schedule, the highlighted area is where we are today. Not only are we working to get the parking lot reconstructed before the solar carports are installed and operational, we are also working with our site stakeholders, the Great Basin Youth Soccer League, to get the most disruptive construction activities done in between their spring and fall soccer seasons so that we don't impact the youth soccer fields with our projects. Like I said earlier, now's the best time to complete the Grant Drive parking lot reconstruction. I want to thank you for your time. That concludes my presentation.
All right. Just a couple questions. Is this $1,088,000 our cost share? And what is that percent a cost share?
So the cost that we're asking for today is to reconstruct the parking lot.
Right.
Those are the city's costs. NB Energy bears the costs to install the solar and carports.
Do you know what their cost will be?
That is something I'll have to look into and get back
Does
to you.
Suzanne know what they're roughly? Well, we got a grant. I mean, no?
Ms. Groneman, would you like to come forward, or Mr. Manager? They're just separate items, I think.
Yeah, I'm just trying to but they go together. So.
Suzanne Linfonte for the record, or Linfonte, previous last name, Groneman. Excuse me, I've been under the weather. Two separate projects.
Right.
The grant was the rooftop solar at the pool.
Right.
And this has nothing to do with the grant. So NV Energy, we don't have their complete cost. It's called an EPC, so it's essentially a rolled in bundled cost. They don't disclose like the broken down cost to us. So we don't know that.
It's proprietary to them.
Yep.
Oh, I understand. So I just wondered, our million, I mean, I don't know what it's going to take. Obviously, you don't know either what's going to take for them to construct. But it's not the solar at the pool. It's a solar right here.
Correct.
I mean, it's not like these are two different places. This is solar right on top of this new parking area.
Correct, but the solar on the new parking area is not offsetting any city facility, unlike
Right. It's for the
rooftop
community
project.
solar.
Correct.
Yeah. So I guess just to wrap this up for me, I think this is such an important project that I guess I would ask Mr. Manager, as we're redoing our code, which I just got a briefing on Title 18, what we're doing, it just seems important to think about when we get development projects, if this makes sense, financial sense to someone, and we're trying to hold off our climate change impacts, it seems that where possible, we should be encouraging developers to also do this. One, it shades the parking lot, and two, it generates electricity. So, I would love to see this explored more by our development community as well as our government. So, a policy statement.
Great
Yes,
comments.
as we've talked about before, we're looking for comprehensive solutions to the urban heat island issue.
Right. So this is a big one that doesn't involve planting trees, but does involve shading parking lots, which is very important, and an alternate energy source. And I'd love to see this expand, something we've been talking about for at least 8 years. So, okay, well, I would move to approve, but there may be other comments.
Any additional comments from the body? Mr. George, thank you for the presentation. Always fun to hear some engineering humor as well. So I appreciate that very much. Councilmember Dewars made a motion. Can I get a second? I have a motion by Councilmember Dewar, a second by Councilmember Taylor. Any additional questions at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries unanimously. Councilmember Ebert, item B20.
Yeah, just like more information about this item.
Mr. Michelle, thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Vice Mayor Reese and members of the City Council. For the record, Mike Michelle, Engineering Manager for Development Services. Before you this morning, for your consideration, is the approval of a regional road impact fee offset agreement for the Dandini Spectrum development. The Dandini Spectrum development is located east of 395, north of Dandini Boulevard, west of Spectrum. It's a 25-acre plus mixed-use development that was approved as LDC 21-40. It is required to install 2 traffic signals at the north and the southbound off-ramps to 395. What is an offset agreement? It's a three-party agreement between the city, RTC, and a developer, wherein a developer builds regional street improvements, and in return they receive credits that can be used to offset their regional road impact fees that they would otherwise pay. On average, we do a couple of these a year. The form of this agreement is similar to the form that you have seen before. Doing these agreements is a good thing. It makes sure that improvements can get done sooner than later. It makes sure that the impacts of development get mitigated sooner than later. It means that our money stays in Reno. As far as I'm concerned, we ought to be doing more of these. The estimated cost of these offset agreements is a little south of $1.6 million. This agreement has been approved by the RTC board, and the improvements have been approved by NDOT. I'm available for questions.
I do have a question. How did this come about with the light? Because we don't normally do this in the North Valleys, or since I've been on the council. What process initiated this?
Well, it was something that was negotiated between RTC, the city, and the developer. Again, they were required to put these signals in. They are regional road impact. These are regional road improvements that are identified on RTC's capital improvement plan. They qualify for an offset agreement. The developer asked for it. We agreed to it.
How long was that process?
The process itself, I would say from start to finish, it's a matter of 4 months or so.
4 months. Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Dewar.
Yeah, I would have pulled this if you had not, Councilmember. So my question, could you turn the map so north is north a little bit? I think it's a quarter turn. Keep going. I think you're almost there. I think keep going. I think we're about north. Okay, keep going. There you go. And can you move it back over to center? My question is this. So the roundabout where you go off to the EOC and the Public Safety Training Center, can you put your finger on that? Point that out. Thank you. So is this project going to be accessed off that road or off Virginia, or off 395? I'm assuming off the road, which is Spectrum.
It will be accessed off of the roundabout.
Okay. And what kind of development is this?
It's a mixed-use development. If memory serves me right, I think there's a hotel, there's some restaurant uses, a little office. Okay. Again, it's a little more than 25 acres. Okay. And again, it was entitled a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. So here's my concern. The roundabout there is what I would consider substandard. It's very tight. People that are using it are going to DRI, to TMCC, up to the training center. And now you're going to have a 25-acre multi-use development with a hotel. People maybe that are from out of town don't really know our area. What I'm wondering is NDOT or RTC planning to improve this roundabout?
I do not believe at this time. Again, that was vetted through the Planning Commission. We did have discussion on that very issue. NDOT has looked at the traffic study. They've bought off on the improvements.
So the improvement is going to be, again, a light at the two exits onto 395 or I-580.
Of Park.
But nothing to do with this roundabout. I think this is a kind of a point where the city's got to take a lead. And if we're doing this impact fee or IF waiver, I really think we have to address this. There's no way it's going to maintain operation with a 25-acre mixed-use development. It can't. It's already difficult to negotiate. It's a very tight spot. It may have to be a light itself. So not that I want a light versus a roundabout. I like roundabouts, but it's a very tight location. And I understand if we put a light, then we could end up with a backup to take the left onto that development. But I really think somebody, before we maybe issue building permits, has to look at this. Okay, now maybe the building, you said it was approved some time ago. Maybe the building permits are years away too. I don't know. What's your feeling on that?
We'll take a look at it when the project gets further down the road.
Okay. Okay, well, who is the we? Planning or?
Yeah, it would be us in conjunction with RTC.
With Kurt too, with the traffic people at the city?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's a big concern. So I'm putting it out as a mark before I vote on this item, okay? Thank you.
Any additional questions? Mr. Martinez, Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Reese. Having utilized the off-ramp on both sides, I just want to say that I appreciate the light going in because the visibility looking either direction once you get off of the highway, whether you're going southbound or you're going northbound on 395, it's pretty difficult to see, especially if you have a semi right next to you. So I think this will definitely increase safety in transportation with people getting there. And then with the roundabouts, comments that were just made, it is pretty tight, but I have witnessed large vehicles make the turn, but with the amount of people that will be going through there, there may be some concern there, and I appreciate you looking into that a little bit more. So thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Councilmember Ebert.
Yeah, so I assume there was a traffic study done to identify the need for the traffic signals on these roads?
Correct.
So to Naomi's point, was the roundabout included in the traffic study? Do we know specifically what areas were included in the traffic study?
Yes, the roundabout was included in the traffic study.
Okay.
And there were no recommendations for improvements to the roundabout.
Okay.
And again, that study was vetted through NDOT, through RTC, through the Planning Commission. I totally get Councilmember Dewar's comments, and we'll take a look at it in some more detail when the project, further develops.
Thank you.
I'll just say one more thing. I have some exquisite experience with roundabouts here in Ward 2. So one is at Neal and Kitsky. It works fantastic. It passes about 60,000 cars a day or more. But there's another one down at Geiger Grade and Veterans that is very poor. We have a lot of accidents on that one. It's not very well delineated, and it's an NDOT roundabout. And I don't know that they have as much expertise as the city does. I don't know whose this is, whether it's a city roundabout or NDOT. But all I know is that they're having to actually create an entire way to get around the roundabout in South Reno, so people don't even go on it because it's been so dangerous. It's much bigger than this one, okay? The signage is confusing. I've had a great in-depth meeting with our staff. They've come up with really good improvements on signage, on timing, on signaling, et cetera. And those are yet to be made. But that's already been rebuilt 2 times, and now they're looking at a 3rd time. So all I'm saying is we can do it very well, and then we can do it not so well. And this one I find particularly deficient. So I just thank you for looking into it and make sure that people are going to be safe there. Okay? All right, thanks.
Councilmember Ebert, can I get a motion to approve staff recommendation?
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion
Second.
by Councilmember Ebert, a second by Councilmember Dewar. Any additional questions at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Item B34, Councilmember Dewar.
Yep. Yes, let me just turn to that page. Yeah. So B34, what I wanted to make sure we went over the citywide fee schedule during the budget. And is this just the action we have to take to implement the fee schedule?
No.
Vicki Van Buren, Director of Finance. No, Councilmember Dewar, this is a correction to the fee schedule that you
Correct.
already adopted.
Okay.
We had consolidated a lot of the fees.
Right.
And based on that, I just have a quick little presentation here. There's 2 items that were omitted that should have been on there, and it was
Okay.
just an administrative omission whereby when we were combining items, these dropped off the
Gotcha.
schedule and they should have been on there. So
Okay.
it's a return check fee and then the background investigation fee for police. And both of these fees are just going up by the CPI. And it was intended all along that they
All
would
right.
continue to be on
Thank you.
there.
All right, thank you. I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Dewar, second by Councilmember Ebert. Any additional questions at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries unanimously. And last but not least, item B36.
Well, I just wanted to do a huge shout out to the Elm Estate. This is basically, they severely or significantly discounted their fees to allow us to hold a recognition ceremony for historic resources at the Elm Estate. They discounted it by 80%, this $4,500. And I just wanted to thank them. They did a terrific job in supporting the city. So essentially, they gave the city an in-kind contribution of $4,500, which is certainly not something we had asked. We had just said, can we use your facility and what does that look like? And trying to figure out if we could afford that. The event was extremely well attended. People were very happy. One of the unique aspects of the event was that we got to recognize 5 legacy businesses, some of which have been operating in the city for over 125 years. They're amazing, and there couldn't have been happier people in the room that day, other than these families that were associated with these businesses. They're all family-owned businesses. So with that, I just wanted to do a huge shout out to the Elm Estate and thank them for their support of the city.
Well, and before you make a motion, Councilmember Dewar, let me also say thank you to you and the folks involved with setting up the evening. Ms. Galgon obviously did a very kind thing for hosting the awards there, but it wouldn't have been possible without your leadership and the efforts you took to elevate is a good word, modernize. It's somehow to make historic preservation much larger in visibility. So thank you to you for that. So I appreciate you very much for that.
Yeah, I was thrilled to do it. And I just want to say I'm pleased that the city has continued to, through their social media, highlight these businesses and the award winners so that it's not just a once and done. And if you happen to be the 125 people that attended, you know all about it. And if you missed it, you know nothing about it. I think by continuing to put the information out there on our social media, it keeps it very present. It's very similar to what the we saw for the Women's Fund Awards, where they continued to elevate and highlight each of the award winners in separate posts. And I would love to do it for all of the award winners. There were 19 in total, 5 were businesses. So I just wanted to commend you, Mr. City Manager, and our social media team and our historic resources team for doing that. I think that's very cool. So with that, I would motion to approve item B36.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Dewar, a second by Councilmember Ebert. Any additional questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the questions. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Reese. With that, we're moving on to item C1.
Okay, let the record reflect that the City Council is opening the public hearing on item C1. Madam Clerk, was proper notice given? Any correspondence received?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. There was no noticing requirement for this item, but we did not receive any correspondence.
Okay, and let me ask my colleagues, do any council members need to make any disclosures at this time? Okay, hearing none, I'll invite staff forward for a presentation, followed by questions from our body.
All right, good morning, Vice Mayor, council members, and City Manager Thornley, who just left. This is a presentation.
Ms. Wiseman, thank you for being here.
For the record, Elaine Wiseman, Housing and Neighborhood Development. Thank you
Old
for
friends.
the reminder. Yes. So this is I have a brief presentation. This is an affordable housing fee reduction request from Vintage at Redfield Apartments. It's a new construction development project. So this is a similar presentation to what was given in late April for our last request that we had. In 2019, state law was changed to allow local governments to reduce or subsidize enterprise fund fees. And then this council adopted an ordinance setting affordable housing fee reduction standards and criteria. This request by Vintage at Redfield is for 223 units of affordable housing for seniors at or below 60% AMI and 50% AMI. They are eligible for the 75% reduction because all of the units are at or below 60%, and also for the additional 10% because it's in a mixed use area. So that's an 85% reduction, totaling $1,032,000 roughly in sewer connection fees. So again, the total number of units is 223, 219 of which are 60% and below AMI, and 4 of them are 50% and below. This slide captures all of the sewer subsidy projects that have been approved by this council. And it's a great snapshot because it does show the total number of units that this program has created, as well as the pending, which is what's before you today. So if this is approved today, this council will have added 1,244 new affordable units, totaling $5.688145 million in subsidy to support affordable housing. So with that, here is the recommended motion. I'm available for any questions, and also we have a representative from Vintage here as well.
Ms. Wiseman, thank you for the presentation. Let's see what we have questions from the body. Councilmember Dewar.
Thank you. I think, as you know, I love these projects and I love Green Street. Thank you so much for continuing to bring affordable housing to our community. It's so important. This is a very well situated project. I mean, we are near shopping. It's near other apartment complexes. There's good travel. It's great access even to the freeway. I mean, anybody that lives in this general area of McCarran, Moana, Talbot, you can't say more about the location. Location. Love that we're at 50% and 60% AMI. One of the challenges that we've experienced with other, particularly senior, affordable housing units are 2 things. One, I've seen in some of the others where rents have gone up. Rents are allowed to increase to the AMI, so it's based on AMI. And so as we've brought in headquarters and different kind of jobs in Reno, Nevada, not just gaming or service jobs, we have been raising our average median income. That is fantastic. The downside is that rents that are tagged to AMI can also go up. And I've seen them in some of our senior affordable housing go up as much as, it's an equivalent of almost 30%, because the AMI has gone up 30% over 3 years. So not 30% in one set, but 30% over 3 years. I think the goal is to keep these affordable. And so I actually testified before the legislature that they should consider looking at rents and senior affordable, especially, but seniors overall. And they actually did have a bill. This session, I was surprised, focused on seniors. To my knowledge, the bill did not pass. It passed, but I don't think the governor signed it, right? I believe that it passed the legislature, but was not signed. So it's not happening. And so we're in the same situation. And so I want to give a pitch to the developers to take a really close look at this. Really close. It can be self-imposed. Look at self-imposing no more than a 5% increase per year. Even just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I'm going to support this item. I want the waiver of the sewer fees, but I have, again, 2 issues. One of them was what I've seen in other senior affordable going up as much as 30% in 3 years. $50, $50, $100. $100, $300 on a $900 or $850 rent is 30% increase in 3 years. I'd love to see a self-imposed limit on increasing. I know people have to recover increased costs all day long, yes, but not to go to the bottom line of the organization that owns it and manages it just because we're working hard to raise our AMI citywide. So the second issue, and I've talked a lot with Green Street, Vintage, and their management group, FPI. So first question is FPI the management group here? Is that a yes? So if you look at reviews, like a Yelp type of reviews of FPI, they're not getting the greatest reviews. I've had many conversations with them, virtually monthly over a year. I've engaged our city staff. It isn't just me. There's many issues been there. And one of them is even how charges are assigned to the renter. So for example, recently, FPI said we're not going to provide cable service anymore. And each individual resident will have to get it on their own. Suddenly, very quickly in 30 days, they had no TV. They had, and I know that Spectrum worked really hard to get most of these people all individual contracts. So they had to do 150, let's just say rounding, individual contracts, where it had been one contract was included in their rent. So these are some of the challenges suddenly where everybody had, let's say, access to TV or internet, suddenly they didn't. And that's important because one of the things is that they pay their bills, I guess, electronically. And if they don't, it's a more complicated process and they have to petition and so on. So what I'd love to see is improvements in the management operations with FPI and how they work with the residents to make this more seamless so that a person like myself, the council member, isn't getting calls virtually monthly about issues with the residents and FPI, okay? Again, I think Green Street does a phenomenal job. Vintage owns many of these locations. FPI, unfortunately, has been quite challenged over this last 2 years. And again, it's just not me. I've included many city staff into this process. They've seen with their own eyes. So I'm going to support the item, but I'm sending a kind of a warning, a request and a warning that I would love to see this one operate differently than others that are also in Ward 2. Okay, I can't speak to those that are not in Ward 2. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Dewar, thank you for the excellent comments. Any other questions from the body? Mr. Zakeo, can I have you come forward, please? You're the next contestant on The Price is Right. Mr. Zakeo, thank you, first of all, for being here. I wanted to echo some of the comments that my colleague made, but also to start at the starting point, which is really a heartfelt thank you to what Green Street, you, and Mr. Hilliard are doing in this community. There are very few, if any, other developers operating in this space. And we certainly as a body understand the challenges you face, not from the same perspective that you understand those challenges to be. And so I want to just say thank you for continuing to do the work. I would venture to guess that most, if not all, of the number of units that were on the slide that Ms. Wiseman provided have been provided by your company over the years. There's a couple other players, undoubtedly, but they're not here today. I want to just say again, we know there is a tremendous need in this community. I also understand the way in which the layered financing approach requires so many different moving parts. And so at the end of the day, what I hope that you hear is A, there are obviously ways that we all can be improving in this space, you as well as us as a council. And B is the continued commitment that we have to building in this space with you. I view us as being in partnership. I view us as wanting the absolute best for this community. And everyone on this dais wants to see more affordable units. Every one of us on this dais is thankful when you are able to reach into that 60 and 50 AMI. One of the areas which I am particularly passionate about, and you and I have spoken about this before, is the need for some units to be reserved exclusively for folks who find themselves both in the category of affordability, but also having needs that related to their disabilities. Right. And so just something to continue to be working on and thinking about. I think Councilmember Dewar is absolutely right that support for this item is a critical effort to continue that partnership. And again, I just want to say thank you. And if you have any comments you'd like to make, certainly you're free to make them. But I know that the work is challenging, but it's also rewarding. And the folks behind you who work with you very closely know that when you say you're going to do something, and the both of you and your company, you do it. So thank you for that.
No, thanks for the comments. We really appreciate it, and we'll continue to bring more affordable housing to Northern Nevada. So thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any other comments at this
Yeah.
time? Councilmember Dewar.
And if you'll just stay, and I want to echo my colleagues' comments, and I think I made it clear how much I value this partnership with
Yes.
Green Street.
Mhm.
You're amazing. And I'm so grateful to have these housing and for you to continue. You know, you continue figuring it out, where to put these places, which have the, what is the word? The parcels that qualify for this type
For
of.
the tax credit bump, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
And this one actually is outside of that.
Outside. I didn't think
unfortunately.
it was. Yeah.
This
Okay.
one's been a big struggle. So
It has.
this is actually this abatement here is critical for this thing.
Okay, good. Let me ask, the rents start lower, but is the unit required to take Section 8? Or is it called something else now? Monica, correct my lingo. What is it called? I'm sorry.
Just vouchers, choice vouchers.
Choice vouchers.
Yeah.
Is that a requirement that they take the choice vouchers, or is that
I don't
optional?
know, Council Member Dewar, if it's a requirement, but we have plenty of tenants that are on those Section
Right.
8s. Yes.
Okay, I mean, one of the things we just talked about last meeting was at Riverside, and we put in part of their requirement was that they take the choice vouchers.
Yeah,
And
we take all those.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
So, is it possible? I mean, who sets the rent increases? Is it you? Is it Vintage? Is it FPI?
No, it's HUD who actually dictates the rents. Those come out every April and May.
But that sets a maximum, right?
That's a max, correct.
But who actually sets the?
It would be a partnership decision, whether you
Okay.
bump it up to the max rents, or sometimes you can't charge the max rents because you can't fill your apartments.
Right.
So
Well, is that something you can take into consideration?
we
Take back
do,
to the team.
We do on every project. And keep in mind that not only we see those rents going up, but we also see on the management side, the expenses go up as well.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, these senior affordable apartments, those are all, utilities are all included. They're not
Right.
paying any of those
It's
separately.
amazing.
So those are all inclusive.
Yeah.
So no, we take a hard look, and I can tell you the last 3 months, we had the sanctuary project. The cash flow on those is zero.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, these are tight deals.
Well, and in
But
fact,
it's not to say we don't look at every single project.
look at the power bills. I mean, they're having to absorb the
know.
power increases and not raise rent
Right.
based on that. So, I mean, I am not presuming that I know all the things you have to face. I just know, here's what I do know. I've had residents move in because they could afford it and then move out because they cannot afford it. And I don't know where these seniors are going. If this is considered the affordable housing option, where are they going? I mean, are they going to live in their car? Are they moving out of town? Many of them have told me they have to move away. You know, that the very people that you're designing this for cannot afford it. So just to keep it in mind, I don't know how to fix it, but I at least wanted to address it.
We're addressing as much as we can. I can tell you though, as soon as these units are complete, they are full. Our
Of
family
course.
and our senior affordable.
Yeah.
They stay 100% full with a long waiting list.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for everything you're doing. And again, I'm going to support this. I want to make the motion to support
thank you.
it. Appreciate
Thanks,
what
everybody.
you're doing.
Thanks.
Councilmember Dewar has been very passionate in trying to find every single way that we can keep folks in their homes, whether that's rent gouging issues. There have been discussions about trying to tie tenancies to longer periods, certainly trying to avoid the increase in rent. So, of course, it's an ongoing discussion, but you've got a fantastic advocate to my left and your right who's trying in every way, every day to make Reno more affordable and accessible for folks. So you can see the passion there. Councilmember Dewar, the
Yeah.
motion floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd love to make a motion to support item C1.
Second. I have a motion by Councilmember Dewar, a second by Councilmember Martinez. Any additional questions or comments at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wiseman, thank you. Always a privilege. Madam Clerk, item D1.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Reese. At this time, we're also going to open the redevelopment agency boards. We'll run 2 meetings at the same time because I believe that Director Van Buren has a presentation for both. So if we can call to order the redevelopment agency board for Wednesday, June 23rd, I will go ahead and take roll call. Councilmember Breckus, absent at this time. Dewar.
Here.
Martinez.
Here.
Ebert.
Here.
Taylor. Reese.
Here.
Sheevy, absent at this time. Vice Mayor Reese, you do have a quorum of the redevelopment agency board. We're going to go ahead and open general public comment for this item, to which we have none registered. And we're moving into approval of the agenda, item A4 for the redevelopment agency.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? I have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, seconded by Councilmember Martinez. Any additional questions or comments at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk, let the record reflect.
Thank Thank you, Vice Mayor Reese. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open item B1 on the redevelopment agency board, in addition to item D1 on the Reno City Council agenda.
Okay, Madam Clerk, also please note Madam Mayor is with us.
Thank you. I have noted she arrived at 11:07.
Thank you so much. I'll continue to run this agenda item, and then we'll get through the staff presentation. Ms. Van Buren, thank you. Welcome.
Good morning.
And just for the record, I apologize. This item was properly noticed, and we did not receive any correspondence for either the item D1 or the redevelopment agency item B1.
And presumably none of my colleagues have disclosures, or they would have let me know. Okay, Ms. Van Buren, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Vicki Van Buren, Director of Finance. I'm here today just to give you the final fourth quarter budget adjustments that we need to make for this current fiscal year. This is really a lot of just cleanup and regular items that we have for year end. It does include the augmentations and revisions through June 30 for this last quarter. We have general fund appropriations of $7.3 million. Of that, we have police, fire, parks, and municipal court grants that we are augmenting to the budget. We also have a franchise fee audit recovery fee that is one time that we're proposing that we take to the risk fund. That's $2.7 million, and it is one-time funds from that franchise fee audit. And then we have some revenues that are higher than anticipated in business license, parking tickets, delinquent penalties, and interest earnings. And so we're proposing to use those to cover some of the anticipated and current public safety cash outs and severance pays that we anticipate to occur before June 30. We have a number of personnel in police and fire that potentially could retire, and we're hearing some items about that. So that would buffer this budget to do that. And then we have some revisions that include the contingency fund allocations. In the contingency fund, we have several items for consulting contracts, and then we also have some allocations for the information and technology upgrades that council has wanted for council chambers for some of the issues that we've had here. We have grants and the HUD and state housing funds, community assistance and room tax. The large item you see in the event center is for the anticipation of the refunding of the bond that council approved, that $28 million, so that's booking of that. And then in the general capital fund, we have ARPA funds for the grants to recognize those grant funds. Pennington grant and the Moana pool, that would be the second portion of that. The parking lot improvements that are going on there with the NV Energy grant, recording that, and then some donations for relief. In the medical and workers' compensation fund, some of those claims are running a little bit higher, some of it due to inflation on the cost and some of it just due to the claims themselves. These can fluctuate month to month, so right now it's trending a little high. That does not mean that it will end the year high, because as those come in, they can go down depending on the claims that come in, but the adjustment in here would cover how it's currently trending. In the risk fund, that one-time allocation of the franchise fee to support the increased costs of the insurance premiums, as we discussed during the budget cycle, the risk fund is running a little bit low just due to the increased costs of the insurances in there. They've doubled from 2 years ago, from $1 million to $2 million. So what this one-time influx of funds over to that would do would continue to keep that fund at the $5 million that it has been for a number of years. And then as we build the next budget, which would be fiscal year 25, we will be looking at increasing the allocations to the risk fund to maintain this fund and grow it as well. And that concludes my presentation for this one. The recommendation is approval of the augmentations and revisions through June 30, and I'm available for questions.
Ms. Van Buren, before we ask questions of the body, can I just ask, you've got it set up for us to have a separate, smaller presentation on augmentations in the redevelopment agency?
Yes, I do not have a formal presentation for it.
That's
just
what I figured.
A real
So
quick.
what I would like you to do is just address the redevelopment question, and then we'll come to the body for a discussion.
Absolutely. Sure. In the redevelopment agency, I do not have a presentation for that one. As we discussed during the budget cycle with RDA, we did have some revenues and expenses for the garage over on First Street and Sierra, that garage that the city does own through the redevelopment agency. We had approximately $625,000 of revenues that came in from the time period of January to June of 22, and those items were not booked to the prior year. So it's just a prior year adjustment. So they've been booked in the current year, and along with those, there were expenses for the garage as well. So we're having to book those in the current year.
I understand. I figured we wouldn't have questions about the redevelopment agency budget questions, so that seems all technical. Let's come back now to the body for questions on the primary augmentation. Does anyone have any questions at this time?
I have a comment.
Okay, Councilmember Dewar.
Yeah, I don't recall that in the past and maybe I've missed it, but I just wanted to compliment you on the layout that you did on that one slide about what the adjustments are. I don't recall that you did that before. Have you, and I've missed it, or is this a new?
I've tried to, but I refine it each time. So I'm trying to get
at
more
your
information out there.
inquiry,
What's that? At my inquiry?
Yes,
I
I
don't know
you've
that it
helped.
was, but I appreciate knowing what's changing. You know, because you see it all day long. We don't see it. And so I just appreciated the recap.
Well, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions at this time? Madam Clerk, am I taking a motion on both combined? Is that how we opened it?
Nope, if we can take one motion on the regular agenda and then one motion on the redevelopment. that
Okay,
would be
we'll
great.
start with the regular agenda item D1. Councilmember Dewar.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion on to approve item D1, the augmentation of the budget.
I have a motion by Councilmember Dewar, second by Councilmember Taylor. Any additional questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Item B1 in the redevelopment agency. Councilmember Dewar, a motion there, please.
Okay. I make a motion to approve item B1, augmentation of the redevelopment agency budget.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Dewar, a second by Councilmember Martinez. Any additional questions at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Van Buren. Appreciate all the tremendous work that's gone into this by your team.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Reese. With that, if we could close out the redevelopment agency board. So I'm looking if there are any comments for item C1 from the board.
Seeing
related
none,
to-
we'll close that item.
All right, closing general public comment, item D. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the redevelopment agency board.
I have a motion by Councilmember Ebert, a second by Councilmember Dewar. Any additional questions at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. We are adjourned from the redevelopment agency.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to item D2, David 2, which is an update from our legislative team.
Mr.
on
Ciccone, welcome,
23 session.
and we're happy to have you in the building. Come on down. Madam Mayor, the floor is yours.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Good morning.
Did you miss us?
Missed you a little bit.
Okay, great.
I
right.
was waiting for public comment.
Oh.
Or is that already closed?
Yeah. Hold on one second. Okay. Madam Clerk.
Hello, Madam Mayor. We do not have any public comment on this item. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Nick Ciccone, Legislative Relations Program Manager for the record. So the legislature adjourned sine die on June 5th. Since then, one of the budgets had not passed. That was the Capital Improvement Program budget. So immediately, I believe at 8 p.m. the next night, they did convene for a special session, which I believe was the shortest that has ever been recorded, and they immediately passed that bill, only to go into our next special session, which I believe will end either today or tomorrow. The A's Stadium bill did pass out of the Senate the other day and is now in the Assembly in the second House. Over the course of the session, about 1,100 bills were introduced. So far, the governor has signed almost 400 of them. He's vetoed 32, and roughly 300 had died just over the deadline process that the legislature has. So major themes with local impacts. We have our top priorities, housing and homelessness, and then some other items that will touch the city. I think you all will be pretty familiar with these bills, so I won't belabor any of the points, but I'm happy to say that the Affordable Housing Property Tax Exemptions Bill was signed into law by the governor. That will just make it a little bit easier for our affordable housing projects to get those property tax exemptions. Nevada is the only state that requires home funds in order to get those. Assembly Bill 396. Very excited to say that bill was heavily amended, and they did allocate money to the city of Reno directly. We would get $3 million over the biennium. That bill has not yet been signed, but it went from $44 million just for Clark County and was heavily amended to include $3 million for the city of Reno, $3 million for the city of Sparks, and $6 million in total for Clark County. So we're definitely getting our fair share there. Assembly Bill 408, which is the trick driving bill, that will make it a little bit easier for our law enforcement officers in order to cite someone for trick driving on a public premises like a Target, and also tow that vehicle if the individual is cited for trick driving. That was signed into law. A lot of the tenant protection bills are still out there. I'm happy to go into detail about those later if you'd like, but one of them was specifically signed into law recently, and that is the tenant protections, just requiring or prohibiting a landlord from charging additional fees for repairs that are necessary for that unit. Assembly Bill 213 imposes some requirements on us for an expedited process for affordable housing projects. It also requires that we post some information on our website, just letting folks know how long certain development projects take. And lastly, it includes, sorry, I forgot the last part. I think I said all three parts, my mistake. Assembly Bill 10, that bill did end up dying. I know there was an amendment put forth by the city of Las Vegas that tried to revive that bill, but it just allows for tax increment financing in order to fund affordable housing and transportation projects. Assembly Bill 298, as Councilmember Dewar had mentioned, that was vetoed by the governor. Specifically in his veto message, he did highlight that he felt as though it was onerous requirements for landlords, and he actually honed in more on the requirements for the appendices and some of the transparency with the fees rather than talking about the pilot rent stabilization, which was just part of the bill. The property tax exemptions for those certain ADUs, that bill did not pass out of Ways and Means. That bill would have just required or allowed for landlords that have tenants that are using housing vouchers to apply for property tax exemptions. Senate Bill 371 has changed substantially over the course of the session. That bill originally was rent control authorization for local government. It said that local governments could engage in affordable housing measures without, including but not limited to rent control, and they removed the section that says rent control. So now we have the authority, if it's signed into law, to engage in projects that have to do with affordable housing. I'm not entirely sure what that's going to look like. It sounds like the bill has really been limited to much smaller scope than it was previously. And then Senate Bill 426, which was another rent increase prohibition, that bill died and did not make it out of Senate Finance. The expanded access to identification for unhoused persons that went through, it just removed some requirements for notarization, and it also allows youth homeless to use their student identification in order to get certain documents. Assembly Bill 310 is a supportive housing grant fund. It's a $30 million fund from the state, and it's the first time that the state has had a supportive housing fund, if that goes through, but that is waiting on the governor's signature. Senate Bill 155, which aims to copy our community court program, was signed into law, I believe, yesterday. Senate Bill 317, which just allows that unhoused individuals can use a temporary mailing address for whatever place they are staying, was signed into law. And then Senate Bill 400, that bill creates another supportive housing services fund. The issue with that specifically is that, and the reason we oppose it is because it allocates a certain amount of money from cities within continuum of cares. This would require us to allocate between $1 million and $2 million to the Department of Health and Human Services. Thankfully, on that fiscal working group that would allocate that money and send it to where it needs to go, specifically for the Northern COC, would require Reno be represented. Assembly Bill 2, the Blue Lights Bill from the City of Sparks, passed and was signed into law. So open meeting law changes were signed into law with AB 219 and 52. We are still waiting to see where AB 258 is, which would require that we really delve into any of our public records to make sure that there's no information regarding nonprofit lists, names, donors, etc. The drone use bill from the City of Henderson and the League was signed into law. County growth planning, which just requires that the nearby counties around the Tesla development get together and understand the impacts of economic development in the region, and send a report to the legislature, was also signed into law. In terms of big ticket things that were vetoed, I know that we had supported Senate Bill 169, which just required that cities have heat mitigation elements in their master plan. That bill was vetoed because the governor feels as though many cities are already engaging in this practice. And I won't belabor the other two. So next steps, now that we've made it through the 120 days, I'll continue working with the departments to have a better understanding of the impacts of some of these bills and some of the legislation. As you saw, almost 400 bills have been signed into law by the governor. So lots of things will be changing here. And so we'll work together to put a more comprehensive report. And I will continue to work with our stakeholders and our state lawmakers so we continue to build our relationship with the state. I think the earlier we engage, the more successful we'll be next session, and I'm excited to have a little bit more time on my hands this time. Thank you.
Fantastic job. I followed most of what you were doing down there, and just, you know how it can be challenging, and the feedback that everyone just praised you for being able to listen to them, meet with them, be workable. So I really, really appreciate that. So you should be very proud. I'm very proud mama. So any questions? Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Ciccone. I wanted to tell you, because I'm not sure you were here when the meeting just started, but there was a public commenter, Alexis Moderax, who has been a veteran of the legislature for a number of years, who spoke very eloquently and really had gracious things to say about you. And I think I can echo that, because the few times that I was in the building during the session, everywhere I went, the other folks who were in the building also working in behalf of their various clients and, lobbyists and the lobbyist corps echoed very similar sentiments. And I think that's an unusual thing. I don't know that lobbyists are very quick to give praise to their colleagues or their lobbyists. I think that's probably because at times they're at odds with one another. But I do think it speaks to your reputation and the work that you accomplished during the session, that was the consistent theme, is just a recognition that while you were a newer face for them on that side, they had known you in other capacities in the building, and you certainly were not new to the building itself. But I do think that it speaks volumes about the work that you were able to accomplish, the sort of the depth of knowledge that you possess about just a wild variety of things. I don't know how it would be to have to track bills on every measure of subject from, animal related issues all the way up to solar and everywhere in between. So I think that also is the hallmark of some level of, intellectual capacity to have those things, which I appreciate. I think part of the time you were also really trying to wrangle with some of the bills that we here at the City of Reno, our charter committee, tried to wrangle. And sometimes that can be discouraging when the bill that you are there to work on hits some road bumps. But I observed you to have continued to be positive in your approach to it. Some people get very jaded, having maybe they think they've lost the victory or something like that. I never observed that about you. So again, thank you for the time that you spent down there. I know that it is grueling work to be done. I know that I guess some of it's still going on today. Maybe we don't have a dog in that fight, but it is interesting. And of course, the work doesn't end, right? Because obviously now we start to rethink about what will the interim committees look like? How do budgetary issues keep continuing and going? The work is not, the 120 days, but it's all the work you did on the front end. It's the work you do during it, and it'll be the work you do in the interim as it leads into a next session because, 18 months from now, we'll be back in Carson. And so hard to think about it in those contexts, but I appreciate that you've been up for the task and challenge, and you really hit a home run, in my opinion. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And for the record, I did text Alexis and say thank you. That was very kind of her.
Thanks again. It's a lot of bills to track. I've never heard of a year 1,100 bills submitted. I mean, that has to be a record, I would think.
I'm not sure, but it is a ton to track. I can
It's right up
confirm that
there.
part.
I mean, I've heard of hundreds, but not 1,100 ever. The ones that you kind of skipped over and said you could come back, I think they were on housing. Could you just revisit that with us a little?
Was it the tenant protections ones?
Yeah.
Sure.
When you say pending, I mean, are there a chance these are going to be?
That's entirely possible. I mean, given that they're in the special session right now and the governor is still looking over many of the bills that he has until Friday to veto or sign these bits of legislation. So I'm in front of you just a little bit before, but he does have a few more days to sign.
I think it would be particularly good to change the summary evictions because I think it was to reverse the process so that they had to, landlords had to initiate an eviction process through the court system. Right?
That's correct. So AB 340 would switch the process so that the landlord, it was incumbent on them to file.
Right.
And then Senate Bill 335 was changed. It's not the exact same bill. That bill would just allow for a tenant to file a stay with the court if they had a housing voucher or rental assistance.
And then was it 60 days that I saw that they could pause it for 60 days while that went through?
I'm not familiar with the exact timeline.
Okay, so then the other question is the ones that you say the governor vetoed. Do you know, is there appetite or even a possibility for any of those vetoes to be overridden?
It depends on the exact day that they were vetoed. For some of them, they had the opportunity to bring it back, and they did not. For the others, like ones that fall on the days that he needs to sign by Friday, those could come back next session.
That's what I was wondering. Don't the legislature has an opportunity at the beginning of the next session to consider overriding a veto?
That's correct.
Okay, I think it's important to know. I mean, there is a lobbying opportunity if there was a bill that, someone had their heart set on to maybe make that happen, I suppose. And then on the rent control bills, I guess, we'll call them rent stabilization, whatever. So was anything passed in that arena?
There was no rent stabilization bill signed into law.
Yeah, okay, so it's business as usual.
Yes.
Okay, that's helpful, thanks.
Madam Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
Mr. Ciccone, I think what would be helpful, rather than in this context and hearing it and trying to process it, what would be helpful for me is on these important issues that surround the, housing and tenant protections, whatever it may be, fee reductions. Can we get a written presentation that would give us some grounding in which each of these are? That way, if Councilmember Dewar has questions on a specific bill, maybe the bill would be included as background. I don't know if we'll have to work with legal to understand if there are things that impact us specifically that are changes. I just think it's too much information to digest in this format, and it is too important for us not to understand. And so I would just ask, and you think about it with the city manager's office, about whether we could receive some more detailed materials that would be relevant on these important housing-related topics.
Definitely happy to do that, and I do plan to work with some of the other cities to see what their reports look like so that I can make sure I have a detailed analysis for you.
Yeah, we just need to know how things are changing, if they're changing.
And then Nick, the other thing, as we look to the future, I would like to sort of continue sort of updates on what BDRs we're going to look at, and because it's really interesting. We sort of forget by the time we get to the session.
Yeah.
It's a year earlier on, right? So I would just ask for, sitting down and talking about what our BDRs look like. And then the other, I think it's really, really important to look at something for mental health and addiction. Because obviously all those resources are coming from cities, and that funding goes to obviously the state and the counties and nothing to the cities. But those are the kind of things I want to kind of focus on. So
Definitely happy to do that, and I can make sure to include those in whatever report I write up for you.
thank you so much. Okay, appreciate it. No? All right.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve.
Panless. All right, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Hope you got some sleep. Did you?
Not
Okay,
yet.
good. All right, Madam Clerk.
All right, Madam Mayor, we're moving on to item D3.
Yeah, actually, Madam Clerk, I would like to get the rest of the agenda out of the way and then have this on last. Are you okay with that, City Manager?
I am great with that.
You're great? Oh, he's great with that.
Hey,
They can be
now.
put off even 5 minutes.
Hey,
out.
now. All right.
5 minutes?
10, max.
Not much. So are we on item G1 then, Madam Clerk?
Yes, hold
Okay,
on.
Madam Mayor.
Okay, Madam Mayor, then we're going to go ahead and open item G1, which is the appointment to the Reno Arts and Culture Commission.
All right, Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment?
I do not have any public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, based on recommendations, we would like to appoint Marie Rodriguez, Jahan He Mazarigo, Constance Hightower, and Ruby Barrientos.
Second.
So I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, Madam Clerk, any public comment?
Item G2, we do have a public commenter.
Okay, awesome.
Robert Chisel.
Ah,
Robert Chisel, thank you.
I figured I'd come back for all time's sake. It's been a while. Robert Chisel for the record. It's just coming here to ask for your consideration to be appointed to the Reno Airport Authority Board. I believe I bring a good set of skills and historical knowledge about bonding, finances, airports, transportation. In my days at the Nevada Department of Transportation, I headed the Flight Operations Division. I also was responsible for the Airport Trust Fund that dealt with the rural airports. And as you all know, I did lots of bonding over my career, over $1.5 billion of bonding. And I think I'd be an excellent representative for the city of Reno and the region, and I'd hopefully request your indulgence. Thank you.
Is this the first time you've been in the building in a while?
It's been probably about a year.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chisel. Appreciate it.
All right, Madam Mayor, with that, we have no additional public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you so much. This is always a very hard appointment because it's one of those where people love aviation and there are so many incredible applicants. I also want to let everyone know we had some applications that came in late, so they didn't make it on, but I do want everyone to know that I have other appointments coming up on this board. So with that being said, Mr. Chisel, I think you'd be amazing to serve. But at this time, under recommendation, I would like to recommend Joel Grace and Kitty Jung.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And Madam Mayor, you're saying Mr. Chisel could be considered in a future round?
Yes.
Okay.
I would love that. Okay, next.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moving on to item G3, which is an appointment to the Special Events Sponsorship Committee from the Financial Advisory Board committee members. And this appointment is recommended by Council Member Taylor.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I recommend Richard J.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
All right, moving on to G4, it's an appointment to the Special Event Sponsorship Committee, the Citizen Representative, again made by Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I recommend Wendy Brown.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
All right, G5 is an appointment to the Special Event Sponsorship Committee from the Reno Arts and Culture Commission to be made by Councilmember Taylor.
All right.
Madam Mayor, I recommend Lilith Baran.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, now we are moving back to item D3.
No,
And
No, I think we're, hold on. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Councilmember Reese doesn't know. That's your job.
Vice Mayor Reese.
H1.
And Madam Mayor,
I'm messing with you.
Are we amenable for a quick 5-minute break? Literally 5?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Is
While
the room
things
set?
exactly.
Let's do that. So before we go into our next item, Madam Clerk, I would like to take actually a 10-minute recess.
Thank
I know
you.
we say 5, but I know it's going to be 10.
Can we just reconvene at noon? 12
Yes.
o'clock.
That's fine with me.
Great, thank you. Hello, Madam Mayor. Oh, you got us all muted still. Sorry, Madam Mayor. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconvene at 12:03 with all members except Councilmember Breckus present. And Madam Mayor, I apologize. Vice Mayor Reese was correct. I was incorrect, and we are going to move on to you. Yes, thank you, sir. H1 City Council comments.
See?
All right. He's smart.
I'm raising my hand.
He's smart. Damn.
Councilmember Dorr.
Go ahead.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Or the wrong person called on me. Are you calling on me, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Oh,
please,
fine.
Please go ahead.
All right. I had two things. One is a report, one's a request. So on the Truckee River Flood Project, I just wanted people to generally know that the Flood Board is looking at what's known as the MAP book, which is an inventory of all the flood projects. And I'm set to meet with them this week. They've already daylighted it. They presented it to the board at the last meeting. They don't have a meeting in June, so it'll be coming back in July when they're expecting to approve it. And so this is really for the general public. If they have input, now would be a good time to hear it. You know, now would be a really good time to communicate with the flood people about what's in and what's out and the relative speed with which to move forward. One of the things that has been held up for me, in my perspective, has been creating playing fields on part of the floodlands. I'm hoping that's included and that we can prioritize it, but we'll see. But it's good to hear from more than just the 6 members of the flood board. Okay, so item 2, I just wanted to thank the staff for making available a memo, I guess it was today or yesterday, about the PFAS and the findings. I guess those came in about a month ago, and there's been a discussion about how best to present those. It's a complicated topic, and PFAS is not one thing, it's like 10 things. And so what I would like to request, the study that we did was an interagency study, and it was pretty much focused on Swan Lake. And what I would like to see us to bring back an agenda item to focus and now analyzing the rest of Reno. So in water bodies, we're looking at Paradise Park and its water body, Idlewild, Virginia Lake would be some examples. In soil testing, I'd like to see it all throughout. One of the concerns is that if we do have PFAS and we do have construction, it's very similar to think about asbestos. And you don't want to remobilize asbestos when you're reconstructing a house. Well, it's the same kind of thing. If there's a place with high PFAS, we want to make sure all safety protocols are being taken care of. And so for Mr. Manager, I would love to, and Madam Mayor, I'd love to see that on the agenda in about a month. And as far as a funding source, I think that we should use our emergency funds because it's a public safety issue that we didn't budget for. And I think that would be a good use of those funds. So those are the 2 things. The third thing, I guess there was a third thing. I think most everyone knows that as chair of the Washoe County Animal Advisory Board, I had a special meeting here in the city of Reno to look at the relationship between Washoe County's animal control and the Nevada Humane Society. And we said we would follow up, and so that's going to be any time from the end of June to mid-July. We'll be having another special meeting or a meeting to focus on that. It remains a very current issue, so the council should know. It's not over, but it seems like it's getting better.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, sending it back to you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're going to close item H1, City Council comments, and we are now.
Well, wait a minute, Madam Mayor. Yeah. Let me just give you a prompt. Were you interested, I think, in bringing back an agenda item perhaps to join or participate in the county's pending lawsuit on PFAS? Did you want to see that on an agenda?
Yeah, can we get that on discussion?
Well, the question is, can we put it on an agenda so we can discuss it at our next meeting, which is in a month?
Sound good?
Is that okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
All right. Right, I have talked to Carl, but I think it would be good to have a discussion.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam
Now,
Mayor.
back to
Now
you.
we're closing item H1, and we are going back to item D3, David 3. the annual city manager's performance evaluation.
All right, thank you so much. So at this time, Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment?
We do have public comment in the audience from Rhonda Tyson and Dan Morgan.
All right.
Good afternoon, I'm Rhonda Tyson. I'm here to ask you to consider two things as you evaluate the city manager's job. One has to do with accountability, the other has to do with communication. It's now been more than 9 months since I was displaced from my home. I'm still displaced. The uncontroverted evidence is that the city of Reno was not in compliance with the fire code last October, and that led to millions of dollars of damage to my community. And we recently learned, not unexpectedly, that our insurance will not be renewed. The question is, who's responsible? Is it the city manager who's in charge of these departments? And if not the city manager, then isn't it his responsibility to determine where the failure was and then make that public so that we have confidence in our city establishment that you are meeting our needs? The second thing I want you to consider is communication. Let me give you two examples. Roughly 7 years ago, my community sent a letter to the city attorney's office concerning flooding onto our property from the city-owned lot. City attorney sent staff out, people from the engineering department. They analyzed, identified the problem. Unfortunately, they didn't fix it, something that I presume you'll disclose to built on your second date. Last summer, I sent a letter to the city manager, to the city attorney, asking that the malfunctioning culvert be repaired as part of the Booth Street siphon project. I heard nothing. After the fire, I contacted the city manager, asked him to come out and look at our property. I heard nothing. On a slightly different note, let me take you back 5 years ago when Waste Management decided that they weren't going to pick up our trash anymore at my condo complex. Those men sat in their truck while our 80-year-old president of our association struggled to put the dumpsters onto the truck while they watched. Council member Breckus arranged a meeting for me with Waste Management, and we ironed it out. Contrast that to this last October, where Council member Breckus had a meeting set up with the Reno City Fire Chief, and she was told to stand down. I don't know if the city manager has put her on ice, but I can tell you that I don't have the confidence that people in Ward 1 are being heard currently. I spent my career in public service. I learned one thing very importantly. People don't need their government to agree with them. What they need is to believe they've been heard. I can point last week to when Councilmember Reese shook Jerry's hand, and for the first time that man felt like he was seen. That's all I'm asking. Have your manager make us know that we are seen.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. And I would just ask Chief Cochran, will you please meet with her? Thank you.
Yeah, and Madam Mayor, I just wanted to say I did meet with Chief Cochran and others about the incident, and I have made arrangements. I don't know if they've contacted you, Ms. Tyson, about meeting with you. So they had first set up a Zoom, but I told them I wanted it in person, so they're rescheduling.
I appreciate it, Councilmember.
All right.
Dan Morgan.
Dan Morgan. Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor. For the record, Dan Morgan on behalf of the Builders Association and myself personally. As many of you know, I've had the opportunity to work with the city of Reno and appear before this body for more years than I care to admit. And I would like to take this opportunity today to commend and express our gratitude and my gratitude to City Manager Thornley. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of staff at the city for a number of years, and I have found Manager Thornley to be nothing but very willing to work with us. His leadership, his balance, and his fairness, even on tough issues. He'll sit down and have the hard conversations. And I just wanted it on the record for both the Builders Association and myself personally that we are very grateful and very appreciative of that and of his leadership. Thank you.
Well, good. Thank you so much.
All right, Madam Mayor, with that, we have no additional public comment.
Okay. Thank you so much. This better be a good intro.
Oh, it will be.
Okay.
Definitely.
We're waiting for a big one.
Great. So thank you for having me. For the record, my name is Cody Freeman, Human Resources Business Partner for the City of Reno Human Resources Department. So good afternoon, Mayor, and good afternoon, Council. I guess we're in the afternoon hour now. Today, I'm here to discuss item D3, that is the City Manager's 360-degree performance evaluation, and provide you with a short summary of the stakeholder feedback. So what did this process look like? It was a process that was developed by the Human Resources Department, and prior to launch of the survey, Council was given the opportunity to provide feedback on the process and what it looks like. So again, thank you for your participation in developing the survey and the evaluation process. We launched the survey using an online survey platform, and from that we received 6 external responses, and the external stakeholders consisted of community leaders such as the UNR president, RTC executive director, city managers, and county managers from around the area. We also received 43 internal responses, and the internal stakeholders consisted of direct and indirect reports that work directly with the city manager on a daily basis. That includes directors, assistant directors, chiefs, and managers. All of the stakeholders had 16 days to complete the survey. So what did we decide to evaluate and how? We used the rating criteria that you see on your screen, from exceeding expectations to no basis for judgment. When we talk about no basis for judgment, we mean not observed or the interaction was not there to make a valid and valuable judgment. The areas that were evaluated included vision and strategy, communication skills, interpersonal skills, leadership, innovation, and management. Important to note, the survey also included a field for comments, and you will see those comments throughout the presentation today. So what did we find? We found that the summary for vision and strategy had 93% of stakeholders believe the city manager exceeds or meets expectations. And when we look at vision and strategy, we focused on the ability, include supporting and developing council's vision and strategy, as well as the ability to tackle difficult tasks and balance day-to-day demands with long-term interests. The summary for communication skills found that 82% of stakeholders feel the city manager exceeds or meets expectations. When focusing on communication skills, we focused on the fundamentals of oral communication and written communication, along with effective presentation skills and the ability to understand difficult and complex subjects. Important to note on this slide that just about 15%, a little over 15%, answered no basis for judgment. The summary for interpersonal skills and relationships found that 90% of the stakeholders feel the city manager exceeds or meets expectations. When looking at interpersonal skills, we focused on the ability to gain trust, craft positive working relationships, and foster cooperation and collaboration among citizens and other organizations. Again, here you see just over 5% of stakeholders answered no basis for judgment. The summary for leadership found that 89% of stakeholders feel the city manager exceeds or meets expectations. When examining leadership, the areas of focus included supporting and managing city values and council priorities, providing staff with direction, making decisions in a timely manner, and staying current on management practices and techniques. Here you see just under 10% of the stakeholders answered no basis for judgment. The summary for innovation found that also 89% of stakeholders feel the city manager exceeds or meets expectations. When looking at innovation, we focused on areas such as participating with council and staff in strategic planning, promoting creative thinking, and being receptive to new ideas. Here you see just over 9% of the stakeholders answered no basis for judgment. And lastly, when we look at the summary for management, we found that 85% of stakeholders feel the city manager exceeds or meets expectations. Areas of focus for management included being knowledgeable of the city charter, having the ability to create logical sequence for items under consideration, ability to delegate authority, and promote a cohesive work environment. On this screen here, you see over 10% of stakeholders answered no basis for judgment. At this time, it wraps up my presentation on stakeholder feedback, and I would like to welcome City Manager Doug Thornley to the podium.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was hoping for like an introduction of like number 34.
Next year we'll
Eric,
have pyro.
I bet Eric can do that well, right?
Trey said we could
Sort of
have
like a
pyro
sports
next year,
introduction?
so I think that's
Okay.
have a microphone come down out of the ceiling.
Right?
All right. Well, thank you very much. This is the time and place appointed for me to slip into some yellow shoes and take credit for everyone else's work. So I appreciate you giving me that opportunity. A lot goes into making this community livable, and we don't always promote it, although we've done a much better job. But I want to give you some numbers to frame the magnitude of effort that goes into making the city run by our team. So in dispatch in Reno Direct last year, we answered a little more than 555,000 calls. For context, that's 4 calls every 3 minutes, every day of the entire year. That yielded nearly 200,000 calls for service for the police department, which resulted in about 3,200 individual criminal investigations. About 30,000 calls for service from the fire department, 63% of which were emergency medical in nature. Our M&O team absolutely skimmed this year. They cleared and brined lane miles enough to traverse the country more than 13 times. They repaired 6,500 potholes and counting. That was the last number I got, but I know we're doing that every day. And they laid down enough new road stripe to get you in a straight line to Seattle or Phoenix, depending on your mood. We handled 493 cleanup operations through hand and through Clean and Safe, removing 3,500 cubic yards of trash from the community. We distributed $4.5 million of rental and deposit assistance to more than 1,400 households, keeping people housed and sheltered despite some difficult times in the economy there. This council has invested more than $12 million in direct support of new affordable housing units in the community. We handled 67,000 building and license inspections. We renewed 17,000 business licenses. We have 2,500 new business licenses. And we handled 87 discretionary planning cases that either went through the Planning Commission or got to this body. Our regional infrastructure team put in more than $76 million of grant applications to support the development of infrastructure across the spectrum, whether that's sanitary sewer, stormwater, or roads. 88% of our capital projects will be delivered on time. Our 77 playground structures were inspected 924 times. That's just 77 times 12 because we do it once a month. And we do that so that we can make sure that the more than 43,000 people who enjoy our rec centers and our parks on an annual basis are safe and can make sure that they enjoy our parks as much as we do. We finally have internet redundancy in City Hall. I don't know if you've experienced, but it's been life-changing for me personally, and I very much appreciate the Do It team and the work it took to get there. Our comms team has more than 7 million views across all the many platforms they use, 440,000 distinct engagements across our more than 200,000 followers. But I didn't do any of that. I don't know how to repair a pothole, and I can't operate a pump on a Type 1 apparatus, and I'm frankly not built for confined space work.
I'm not certain how to process any
Bubba
type
knows
of
that.
application. And my lack of situational awareness would get me bounced from any sort of public safety academy. But it's not really my job, right? My job is to assemble the very best lineup we can and to make sure they're resourced and supported in a way that drives positive outcomes for our community. I think we've done that in spades. The team that's sitting here today, the team that traverses our organization, is remarkably talented. And as it turns out, I learned this year, attracting talented people isn't necessarily the more difficult part of that equation. It's getting intensely talented people to work in concert with one another. That's the trick. And when we worked through this presentation as a group, we initially struggled to find a way to quantify what that work looks like. And I think the most simple way to do it is to use the formula for calculating individual relationships within a group set. If you take the 25 people who are listed on the city's leadership page on the website, and you calculate the number of individual relationships that need care and attention in that group, it comes out to 300. If we add the 7 of you, that math jumps to 496. When we start adding our regional partners, the boards and commissions, all our many labor groups, that number gets big in a hurry. That's the work that we do, right? That's the work that I'm responsible for creating an environment where our talented folks are able to thrive. It leaves us better positioned to work on the big stuff, to swing for the fences, to make Reno livable. Last year I stood here and I told you we were going to do these 5 things to keep the organization on a positive trajectory. I regret that we picked 5 things because it makes using the term hit for the cycle sort of awkward, but that's what we did. And it's really not that we got this work done, it's how we got this work done. The commitment to public outreach and data-driven decision-making that's embraced by the team of people behind me in their collective execution of the vision of this council makes us more proactive. It makes us less reactive. It makes us better able and better situated to meet the needs of a growing community. And we did that in a lot of ways this year. We completed the financing plan for the Public Safety Center, which will be delivered on time and on budget. And when we stand here next year, it'll be open. I told you before, 63% of all of our fire calls were emergency medical related. And so we stood up our single role medic program, which is a budget neutral program that helps us deploy resources in the fire service in a way that doesn't strip resources from other parts of the community when they're in need. We're up to 9 of them, I think now, from the original 6. In that same thread, we've been a leader in the regional effort to replace the CAD and RMS systems, and that's a foundational step to driving more positive outcomes in the mutual and auto aid spaces, which I know is a significant concern for everybody on this dais. Council invested $2 million in security upgrades to keep our people and our assets safe when they come to work. And then, of course, I mentioned before the thick orange line in M&O, 90 plus days of 24-hour work to keep the community moving during an unprecedented winter and spring. And of course, Chief Nance, who by any measure is the absolute business. But because public confidence and trust is so very important in that position, I want to take a moment to remind you all how we got to that space. We had 5 pre-recruitment community meetings that helped us delineate what an ideal candidate would look like for the position. We had external surveys in English and Spanish. We had better than 3,500 unique views of the website set up specifically to support the recruitment effort of the new police chief. And I think that, again, that underscores the commitment that this group has, not only to transparency, but to involving the public in these most important processes. The incomparable teams in HAND, Housing and Neighborhood Development, and Clean and Safe continue to lead the way in this fight against homelessness and our effort to increase affordable housing options in our community. In last year, Council invested $12.5 million in new affordable units for our community. I don't have it written in front of me, but I believe there are 146 new units that will be supported, whether through ARP investment or through the waiver of sewer connection fees or building permit fees approved by this council. That's on top of the $4.5 million in rental and deposit assistance that I described before. Clean and Safe introduced city walks, which you see in the middle picture there. Clean and Safe, you'll recall, is a cross-departmental group of folks who go out and address all the many concerns that we have with our unsheltered community and work hard to connect them with services every day. These walks allow us to take a more tactical approach to the deployment of our partners at RISE and at Karma Box to be sure that the tools that fit the situation are deployed and deployed readily, so that people who are experiencing homelessness in our community can be connected to the resources they need as quickly as they possibly can. All told, these efforts have yielded another significant reduction in the number of folks who are living outdoors in our communities. Last year, we saw a 46% drop in that space, and this year, I'm so proud to tell you that we have a 21% drop of people who are living outdoors or in their vehicles in our community. So just a fabulous job by those groups. The Biggest Little City is affirmatively medium-sized now. It just doesn't roll off the tongue quite as nicely. And we're working hard to assure that we remain a sustainable and well-planned community. There's a few lenses through which you can approach that last statement, and I think we'll take each of them in turn. But the common thread here is, again, the outreach effort with the community. So whether it's our search for a new police chief, micromobility, Virginia Street placemaking, the horses on the Virginia range, or redistricting now twice, input from our community has helped us be more proactive in policy creation and policy application across all tenets of the organization. So here we automated our permit applications for a more streamlined and more transparent approach to permit review. We've improved our special event processes, leading to a 20% increase in the number of permitted events over the last year. We jumped from 20% is maybe a little fuzzy math, but we jumped from 146 to 180. We invested more than $6 million to jumpstart the Virginia Street placemaking work, to improve the river path, and to support facade and tenant improvements for businesses across the city. But we're not done. We got to talk about parks. Building off last year's generational investments in the Moana Springs Aquatic Center, the council has determined that about $11.5 million of investment from the ARP funding was appropriate for parks, whether that's the Lear Theater, the Reno Tennis Center, Idlewild Park, and of course, the Virginia Range. We spent $750,000 on public art, whether that's the programming in the gallery, which is Megan here. Megan was here. The programming in the gallery has been fantastic this year. If you haven't taken an opportunity to check it out, it's been historically very good. And of course, repairs for some of the public art that we already have installed that desperately needed it. And of course, for the first time, we have a full-time position dedicated to building a historic preservation program, which I know has been a goal of this council for many years. We committed considerable attention this year to standing up our utility services and regional infrastructure departments. The aspirational stormwater utility has advanced through the business impact statement process. Programmatic changes to what that utility could look like necessitate a second run through that business impact statement process, and we expect that we'll have a whole host of community input opportunities in that space. But again, I'd like to highlight the community input that it took even to get this far. We had 3 public meetings specifically dedicated to talking about the stormwater utility. We had 13 targeted meetings with identified stakeholders. The stormwater folks attended all 5 NABs. There were notices on the website. There were notices in the sewer bills. 5 stories were picked up by local news media, and we had more than 30 posts on our social media platforms designed to educate the public and other stakeholders related to the the value of a stormwater utility. So I'm confident that we're going to find a solution here in the next year or so that works for the city of Reno and the region as a whole. But that's not all we've done in this space. We have 60 temporary flow meters on our sanitary system right now. It's the first of a 3-year effort to drastically improve our sewer modeling capabilities, which will help us understand how to best prioritize our capital expenditures when we couple it with a land absorption study that's been spearheaded by our urban economist. The solar and storage project at the Public Safety Center is the first of its kind in the region. We talked earlier about the community solar project at Moana Field. We've increased the number of electric vehicles in our fleet, and we've expanded the infrastructure needed to charge them across all the many city facilities. And apparently, as a group, we took 400,000 bird scooter rides, which I know Suzanne is sitting here and would tell you exactly what that means in terms of reducing our carbon footprint. For the second year in a row, the council adopted a balanced budget. If you keep it up, people are going to have expectations. No? Okay. We had a clean citywide final audit. There were no findings. Our credit ratings and financial outlook, according to the third-party raters like Moody's, are the best in the region. They continue to trend up. They improved even this year. We completed the 3-year effort that it took to transition from one bank to another. So that is finally done. And as part of that, we have a fully digital accounts payable process now, which speeds up our payment to our many vendors, which you all know is a key component in procurement equity. It makes sure that people don't have to exist on the float quite so long. Our finance team has also spearheaded cross-departmental training in the area of grants. That's what you see Mark doing right there in the middle. And Director Van Buren and her team, for the first time ever, published a popular annual financial report, which makes an otherwise dense budgeting process relatively easy to access and understand. It's certainly a huge step in the right direction as it relates to budget transparency. There's an African proverb that's one of my favorites. It's, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We go together. Equity and community relations is revisiting our equity plan this year. You saw that in the roll-up for the fourth quarter augmentation earlier today. And they're keeping us cutting edge with the one-of-a-kind One City, Many Voices series. OOPS, that's my preferred acronym for the Office of Policy and Strategy, is recovering from session. You saw Nick today. They're curating an approach to redistricting again. And they're gearing up to revamp our strategic and master plans through coordination across departmental goal teams who are tasked with designing metrics and measurables to report on a quarterly basis to all of you related to each of the strategic priorities that you saw before in the city's strategic plan. What that means functionally for us as an organization and through a lot of the work of the human resources team is that in a year where anybody who wanted one could find a job, our total turnover for this organization was 6%. You're shooting for anything less than 10. Normally in local government, you're looking at about 18. So our people, I think, on balance, are happy to be here. They feel rewarded with the work that they do. And what that's yielded, actually, is more competitive pools of applicants, where we see a rising trend in the number of applications for an ever-dwindling number of positions, which helps us increase talent density across an already fabulously talented organization. You don't have to take my word for it. For the second time in a year, we're finalists, or second time in 2 years, we're finalists for Best Places to Work. We are the best place to work for working parents. The Government Finance Officers Association handed out 2 awards, both for our budget process and for our ACFR. The human rights, we have another perfect score in the area of human rights for the 6th year in a row. We are LEED Gold certified, probably largely due to the bird scooters. We are Soul Smart Silver designated. And what that means in practical terms is we are the fourth lowest, we have the fourth lowest greenhouse gas emissions per capita of any city in the country. Our comms team won a bronze spike for their communications and engagement related to the micromobility project. And our folks over in Fleet are ASE Blue Seal of Excellence certified for, man, I think like the 18th year in a row, but somebody can jump up and correct me if I'm wrong. All of that means we're the 13th most dynamic metropolitan area in the country. We're the third most popular destination for companies that are leaving California. And we're in the top 5 of communities across the country for wage growth over a year period and over a 5-year period. Next year, I did it to myself again. We got 5 things we need to focus on. We've talked a lot this year about economic development and how we want to create a broader pool of resources to draw from to support our public safety folks and our maintenance folks and our parks and recreation teams. This says regionalization for emergency services, and before any of the police officers who are here in the room or watching at home get excited, what we mean by that is better designing dispatch to support our fire and EMS communities, not regionalizing or consolidating police services. We need to redistrict again. That's a huge undertaking. We'll be back in August with some solutions there. The stormwater utility remains top of mind. I think that is a piece of infrastructure that we really do need to focus on, and it ties into our economic development goals and how we keep our community safe. And then, of course, the strategic plan and the master plan both die natural deaths in 2025. And so here on the back half of 2023 and throughout 2024, we are working hard to make sure we can have a productive conversation about where you all wish to take the city and what your vision is for the next 5 years. This is the last slide of my presentation. I gave you a bunch of numbers, almost none of which were up on the screen. And I think it's important that we take a second to say, there are no great teams without great teammates. And these are some numbers that I think the broader team, I think it means something to them. So there are a little more than 1,800 of us. We consumed 900 breakfast burritos. Mm-hmm. That number would have been higher, but Callie Wilsey once brought remnants of bagels. The fire department sold 800 rescuers in the rescued calendars, but M&O is going to put them, hold their feet to the fire with a thick orange line calendar next year. Feisty Mike showed up 16 times on social media. We handed out 15 plaques that look like the positive affirmation signs to our graduating seniors who work here. We had 5 mayors of the day. We have 3 new council members. We have 2 presidents, it turns out. Didn't make the cut, but we have 2 of them. We handed out 10 swag chains, and there's just one, biggest little city in the world.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
Nice. Okay. Who would like to go first? I guess let me just start by saying, I think excellent presentation. 100%. And for people that probably can't see the room, I don't know where the camera goes, but there is a sea of team members in the room here in support of you, and that says a lot. It says a lot. We are in the business of running a city, obviously, but the bigger business that we're in is actually the people business, because you really are only as good as your people and the people that support you. Otherwise, it's very hard to get anything done. I've watched for 10 years sort of the struggle that we've had with the culture internally, and it's been tough because when you don't have that, the departments, you see them sort of be hard to manage and work with. And then you see high turnover rates and lots of unhappy people. This is the first time since I've been here in 10 years where I've actually had people that I don't know that will stop me on the street and say, I have never, ever been happier and more proud to work for the city. And I think your last slide was a testament to that, because it's not hard what we do, but we are we're humans. This is the human connection. I know we laugh at, 900 breakfast burritos, but it's important. That'll be the headline, guys, just so you know.
Yeah.
I know Rebecca's going, I can see it now, Hillary.
They're delicious.
But but I think, it shows the human connection that you bring to the city. And you have a difficult job because remember, you have to manage us and then you got to manage everyone else. And we have a lot of times different priorities than maybe some of our team does. That doesn't mean that, we don't all get along or agree. Sometimes we agree, disagree, but we put you in a tough position. We are not easy as a council. Sometimes we have obviously different opinions and ideas, and you have to manage that well to have a successful city. And I think you have done a remarkable job with that. And I think you've done a remarkable job really changing the culture. And that, for me, was one of the biggest, initiatives that I wanted to see out of a city manager, because we all love this city and we want everyone else to feel it. And if our team isn't happy, then I can guarantee you our residents aren't happy, and that's a problem. So I want to just say thank you so much for your leadership, and bottom line is I see how much you care about every single person that works in this organization. It's really, really remarkable, and I think it's a testament. I mean, obviously everyone sitting here respects you, wants to work hard for you, and more importantly wants to work really hard for the city. So I think you have done an outstanding job. And then I'll just make some wrap-up comments. But I'm going to start with Councilwoman Dewar.
Oh, great. This is awesome, and you'll know why. So speaking of awesome, Doug, you are awesome. I feel like, so I'm in my 9th year, so I've seen 3 city managers, and I've seen you over the last 2.5 years that you've been here, and I've seen a remarkable change. And I think we've arrived. In other words, we are now at a place, we're stable, we've got a good culture, and this is where we then take it to the next level. So I feel like I'm finally helping lead a city that I can be very, very proud of how it's being managed, and that is because of you and the team that you've put together. I just want to go over a couple of the categories that we're to discuss, and so one of those is communication skills. I think that you're a great communicator. I think you speak with heart. You're very honest, I think, in your communications, and sincere, and that means a lot to me. On this interpersonal skills and relationships, I mean, you saw the high mark you got from the team, and I have to second that or third that or 100th that, because you too, like Mickey, show a lot of emotional intelligence in terms of your empathy and your ability to communicate. I mean, it really goes far to get things done, right? I think you're very forthright and self-aware. Leadership for me is really big, and I think that you've done that with the culture that you have tried to establish, and I think, if anything, I could say that's one of the biggest impacts that you've made here. You've changed our culture to where people are more supportive of each other, working across silos. I mean, that's a mark of a good leader, and that's where you sit for me. The innovation has been good. I think we can still do more there, in terms of expanding our innovation out to the community. And then management, you've just done some enormously good hires. I love the senior management team. It's very positive. It's a cohesive group. And the one thing that I would like to see is you've made a lot of internal changes and you have teams working together. But I think that as council, we know less about that. We're not as aware of those changes that you've made, and I think that would help us to know more about it. So I'm going to summarize. I'm trying to get this into my 3 minutes. I'm going to summarize and just say, starting in terms of growth, I think that we could use some people that even have more governmental expertise. You and I have talked about this, that come to the agency already knowing some of the basics. I would love to see the things that you've done internally in terms of communication be expressed externally as well with some of our general public. They're the ones who measure us. We don't just get to say we're doing a good job with public output or input. I think they have to be the evaluators. And so when we put together strategic teams, for example, on our Title 18 or whatever, well, there's other teams that we hear less from, people that I think we need to reach out. And if they're not feeling happy, then we haven't met our mark. There's some goals too that I'll do on second round since I'm virtually out of time. But I have to outshine my colleague here. And so, Madam Mayor, if you'll give me one indulgence.
Sure.
Okay. So last time, Mr. Reese stunned us with a poem that he wrote with some help for our clerk. Are you ready, Mr.
I'm
Manager?
ready.
I
I
have
love
to
it.
do this. Thank you for calling on me before it's done.
Go right ahead.
Okay. In the biggest little city, Reno's vibrant heart, stands a leader, a pillar, playing an essential part. Doug Thornley is steward of this bustling town, his dedication and wisdom renowned. With a vision that spans beyond the horizon's line, he navigates the challenges one at a time. As city manager, he weaves dreams into reality, fostering growth, progress, and urban vitality. Doug Thornley, a mastermind of innovation, guiding Reno with unwavering dedication. Through urban development, he paves the way, creating spaces where communities can thrive each day. In the streets, buildings, parks, and riverside, he orchestrates harmony, a symphony with pride, from the glimmering lights of the downtown core to the mountain's majestic beauty that we adore. With his team, he tackles concerns big and small, ensuring citizens' voices are heard by all, and more to come. He listens, he strategizes, and takes decisive action to uplift every corner of Reno with compassion, which I love. Doug Thornley's leadership, a beacon so bright, illuminating Reno both day and night. His integrity, ethics, a shining example, very important to me. For public service, he's the finest example. Through trials and triumph, he stands tall, inspiring others to answer the city's call. For in his hands, Reno's future thrives, with Doug Thornley leading, our hopes revive. So let us raise our voices, a resounding cheer for Doug Thornley, a champion we hold dear. In the biggest little city, his legacy is already etched after 2.5 years. A city manager unmatched, his name truly fetched. Now,
let's do this once a month. This is awesome.
Now, truly fetched, I had to look that one up. It means, really, from the way I interpret it, fully developed the complete package. So thank you, Doug, for everything you're doing. I will come back around 2 if I'm allowed with some goals for the future. Thank you for inspiring me, Mr. Reese, from your review last time. So thank you, Doug, for what you've been doing.
Thank you.
Naomi, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Can I ask, did you use ChatGPT?
I might have had some help. I'll just leave it at that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it.
Oh, cool.
I don't know, Devin. That's going to be a tough one to beat. All right. I'm going to send it over to the right of me. Mr. Martinez, would you like to go?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Doug, I appreciate the presentation and everything you've done to help get me onboarded and, in a position to where I can feel like I'm executing the role in a great place, similar to some of the comments that were already mentioned. As I spoke with staff through the onboarding process, definitely heard a lot of great things. And sometimes people would mention that it's been the last few years that they've seen these changes, and obviously it's because of you. It didn't just happen out of nowhere. So I'm grateful that the past council that was here voted to hire you and keep you on, and looking forward to some of the great things that you'll be able to accomplish in this next year. I did just want to highlight one of the comments in the innovation section that talks about your forward thinking and process improvement mentality. I do think that you bring that sort of lens in the situations that you're addressing, and you tend to think of things as interconnected and how they work with one another, and not just looking at things in silos, which I think helps every department understand the role that they have. There was another comment about you having a high rigor and holding people accountable, which through my own education learned about a theory of challenge and support, and it seems to fit with your own mentality here, to where you are supporting the individuals who may need that support, but you're also holding them accountable and making sure that they're producing the highest quality that they can do. And obviously that's going to be the best for our constituents and our community at the end of the day. So I commend you on that, and I look forward to maybe eating more breakfast burritos in the next year. Thanks.
Fantastic. Okay, Councilwoman Eber.
So, pretty new to the council, so I just really appreciate all the support you've given me when I've been learning the ropes, and I just wanted to thank you for the help with the flooding concerns I've had this year. We had a really wet winter, a lot of snow, and that was a big concern that I had, and I just wanted to thank you for your action on that, and getting the HESCO barriers and all those kind of things. That was a huge concern for me, and I just want to thank you for all the work you put into that specifically. I don't know how much everyone in the room knows about that, but I just really wanted to thank you for that. And I know it was a big effort with everyone.
Back row.
Yeah.
The back row is responsible for that.
Well, thank you, everyone. But yeah, thank you for that. Thanks for getting that all together, and just for all the support you've given while I'm still learning things. Thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Taylor.
I got nothing, Madam Mayor. I'm just kidding.
I thought you were going to say, okay, I'm going to go in with my poem now. Okay,
No.
go ahead.
Not even close. Doug. So I am new to the council. As everybody knows, I'm not new to the city. I have seen people leave the city and come back to the city specifically because of you. When I went through the budget process, one of the things that I saw were the goals and objectives from the city manager's office, and I was a little disappointed in what I saw. I talked to you, I said I wanted to see some measurable stuff. I didn't know how we could measure that. And that's what I was looking for. But just turn around for a second. No, really turn around and look.
I've met them.
Just turn around and look.
I can't, it's uncomfortable.
I know, that's why I want you to do it.
He doesn't want you to see his face right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
All of these people are here because of you, in one way or another, and the mission and the vision of the city. And that is something that can be measured. It's not a box that you can check. It's not an evaluation point. In your presentation, you went over all the things that we've done, and that puts us way above and beyond where I thought we were. And that doesn't happen without you, your vision, and your leadership. And leadership is something that not everybody has, and that's not a bad thing. It's just something that you have, and you make people want to do a better job. You empower people. The people that I talked to before this want to work for you. They want to do a better job. They feel like they have all the tools they need to get to where they want to be and do things right for the city and our community, and that's something that you give them. You're also accountable, and I actually enjoy the folks that you have brought to the team that don't necessarily have the government experience, where you've said, listen, we'll help you with that. You bring us your innovation, you bring us your vision, and we'll help you with the rest. That's the path that I want to be part of. So I am super excited for the next year. I think with the potential that you have brought to the city with your team, we're unstoppable. The things that we're gonna do, we're in a place that is just so exciting. And I can't tell you the amount of people when I first started meeting with said, it's all because of the team here, which is you. And this is the best meeting I've ever had at council.
It's the shortest.
I know, it's the shortest meeting I've ever had, so it's the best. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, wonderful comments. Really appreciate those. Okay, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Madam Mayor, thank you, Mr. Thornley. I think that you've heard a lot of great things today. And again, I would echo many of the colleagues' comments that are from this dais. Each of the people in this room, I think, has very purposeful and specific interactions with you. And each one of those interactions, I think, everyone takes a little something different from it. So for my comments, I want to focus on two things. One is the opportunities that I have had to work with your team. So I'll start with that. It is a rare thing, I think, when a leader finds people to work with him or her and instead with one another, and that they have this great sort of syncopated rhythm to how they operate. And I think that when I think about your team and different levels of it, I see that as the mark of true leadership. There is no, sort of I in the process. It is more about the we, that collective existence. I look at your assistant city managers, and each one of them to a T are different in their personality traits and types. And I think that difference is what is the strength of this organization. If you think about, and again, they've come from different walks of life. They have different experiences. But I think about Jackie, Ms. Bryant, and I think about the differences in personality types between you and her. I think about J.W. Hodge. I think about Eric Edelstein. I think about each of them as helping to complete the team, right? It's less about finding people who are going to agree with you at all times. It's more about finding people who will challenge you to be the better version of yourself. And that is a rare thing. I don't believe that that is a consistent leadership trait that I have seen in my lifetime in a variety of different contexts. But that strength, especially in that core group of folks, I think really speaks volumes to the team. And I could go through each one of them. I think it is part and parcel of being responsive is to recognize your own shortcomings and seek to make the team better by filling the gaps in areas where those are the case. That, I think, is the greatest strength that you possess, is that you know your own limitations, but you seek to become stronger as a leader through that organizational chain, and the people that you surround yourself with is a reflection of that. The second thing I will say is Councilmember Dewar and I have playfully talked about innovation and sort of identified the ways in which innovation drives any organization. And I think that the reason why we observe that importance and why we place some emphasis on things like, and it is for fun, right? It's ChatGPT. Not everything that we do in this building is fun, and there are hard decisions to be made, and there are difficult choices to be brokered. So I had ChatGPT play around with variations of a poem for you, and so we started with Shakespeare. I thought that was pretty stodgy. I thought about Taylor Swift writing you a poem. I thought about, and ChatGPT gave all versions of it. I did it as an announcer for a sporting event, as the mayor thought would be appropriate. I had Eminem or Marshall Mathers do one for you, not appropriate in this audience. And I settled on Elmo. Elmo, how he would rate you. And so this is Elmo's words to you. It says, in Elmo's playful world where joy is the key, Elmo wants to celebrate Doug Thornley with glee. As Reno City Manager, he's doing great. Elmo wants to join the fun and celebrate. Elmo thinks Doug is doing a wonderful job managing the city with a big heart and with a weave and a bob. Elmo loves how he listens to people's needs, making Reno a better place full of happy deeds. Elmo knows Doug is a leader with great flair, guiding Reno's future with love and care. Elmo sees him balancing budgets with a smile, his team at the ready, keeping things running smoothly, going the extra mile. Elmo thinks Doug is like a superhero, so cool, protecting the city like a big red cape, so true. Elmo loves how he brings people together, building a strong community that'll last forever. So let's cheer for Doug Thornley loud and clear. Elmo's so happy to have him near. In Elmo's world, he's a star, that's for sure. Congratulations, Mr. Thornley. You're Elmo's hero pure.
Nice. Yeah. Who gets an Elmo poem?
This guy. Once a month. We're doing this once a month.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I do have some more adult comments to add. Perhaps people will criticize the levity of the situation.
Yes.
But I think, again, the work we do in this building can sometimes be difficult. The hours are long. There are lots of nights and weekends involved. And so when we do have the opportunity to talk about breakfast burritos or raccoon sightings on social media, it's because we know that we all are experiencing a shared and collective work that is sometimes difficult. So being able to poke fun at ourselves and also at government is sort of one coping mechanism. I will say in each review period, and it is a unique thing that Nevada requires us to do this with you in a public setting, and there's all these legal noticing requirements, and we have forms to fill out. There are some technical things that it would be in my sort of esteem, having looked at the various things that we look at in an annual performance review. I, for my part, and will be inclined to hear my colleagues' thoughts on it too, but I sort of center myself as an attorney would, and I think first about how our contracts are done. And having looked at yours, I would like to recommend.
Hold on.
Oh, yes.
Can I just make some comments before we get into
Yes,
that?
please
Because I
do.
just want to come out, and then you guys can tell me what you think.
Yes,
But
perfect.
I did want to add that, you know, it's unfortunate, but we're living sort of like in this nasty and negative time right now. I see a lot of it. I think we certainly experience it in government, and it's kind of trendy and cool to be anti-government, or, you know, there's just a lot of things that I think people gravitate to. There's something in the media, Rebecca knows this, if it bleeds, it leads. And people love to sort of look, especially at local government, as, you know, controversial and sort of feed off of that. But I have to tell you, I would not be sitting here if that was the case, because I truly believe that I was elected because we have a positive vision for this city and we want to move forward, and people want their government to work for them. So I don't believe in any of that. So I always say we're going to turn our haters into elevators, and we're going to make this city better. We have a job to do, and we're here for the people in this community because we love it. But I would tell you, my job is very hard to do if you don't have a strong city manager and someone that supports you. Now, does that mean that we don't go at it? Yes, there are times, absolutely, that Doug and I will go at it. And I think that that's a really important relationship to have, instead of someone that just tells you, yes, yes, we can do that. Or, you know, we have a great relationship and where we work together, and I think we respect each other greatly. So when you have, you know, that negativity, I just want people to remember that might sound cool because that's the loudest voice in the room, but it's not what people want to see, and it's not what people want to see their city moving forward. They want to see this. They want to see people coming together and working hard every single day and putting their heart and soul into it. And that is exactly what you do, and it's exactly what everyone in this room does. So I want to say thank you, because that happens only under strong leadership. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So we should talk about contract, but I do want to go back to a couple of comments, because I do think it's important. There are some things that we want to put on your radar, so that when we come back, they're just things that, you know, you can work on. And I'm sure, you know, none of these are a surprise to you, because we have these conversations all the time. But we want to keep them on your radar so that next year we can weigh in.
So well put.
So I want to send it to you, Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, just a few things. And this is by no means a negative. These are things to maybe highlight for the coming year, and we'll get extra attention, extra money, and all of that. So when I heard we were working on Title 18, I actually had like a PTSD moment. I know that may be out of context, but I'm just like, again, like we still have to deal with this. But I also recognize it's a great opportunity, right, to take us to the next level. And I'll just start with my last thing I was going to say, which is trees. We can fix a few things that need to be fixed right in the Title 18 update. All we really ever asked for was to take what we already had, which was great, and put some words around it so people understood, maybe defined terms and those kind of things. But it also applies to the sustainability arena. And we have an opportunity to look at our parking spots, our use. We've done a great job with sustainability internally. And I think it's a time to kind of focus externally on, can we get more community solar? Can we get those EV charging stations out in the community? Can we get the trees? What can we do externally, not just on the things we have control over, things we don't have as much control over, might have to be in Title 18. I think parks is an area for focus. We've done this great thing with ARPA, and we've put a lot of money to the river, to soccer fields, to we did the bond issuance for the Moana pool, et cetera. So this is a year I really think to take it to the next level. We have heard since we got on council that Parks was shredded in the recession and that Parks has never been quite rebuilt. What can we do? How do we do it? I would love to see things like pull together a ballot initiative to go on our next voting opportunity in the November 2024. I think that's one way. We could like focus on getting money, focus on what the needs are, take the pros plan, take it, how are we going to fund this plan that we've just adopted? Code enforcement, we had an audit of code enforcement. Now it's time to take the next step in terms of, okay, what does that mean? And I cannot say enough about what this team has done with these city walks. I think it's like the purest expression of how to turn what should be a strategic initiative into actually, quote, boots on the ground. People walking, people seeing with their own eyes, people having conversations, people then doing stuff. So it's really, how do we support our code enforcement to operationalize, I guess, what we're seeing on our city walks? I have to commend like the snow removal, the historic resources, getting that person in night and day, having a no one for 8 years, having a someone, huge change. Interagency coordination. I know you've been working behind the scenes on the dispatch and the EMS and so on, but I don't know that council knows enough about that or what our next steps are going to be in terms of maybe putting fire back together, maybe having unified dispatch, those kind of issues. Boards and commissions, we've been talking about it, but I'd like to see, it's where the people come together with the city. I was very grateful to see that you've reinitiated the Reno citizen training. Yay. Right? They just did that. To me, I'm so glad to see it, and I want to take it to the next level by empowering our boards and commissions. If we're not happy with what they're doing or the advice they're giving us, let's give them some guidance and make them more effective and make their time feel like it's a worthwhile expenditure, whether it's on a NAB or a civil rights commission or whatever. And lastly, I guess I'll just say this. Sometimes we ask you questions, right, to follow up on, and often you will go back and give us what the staff have said. Okay, the staff said X, but often we already know what the staff said. We're asking for a deeper dive, right? We want you to actually dig into the data and see if we could sometimes get to a different answer by helping the staff see a different path and maybe adopt a different policy initiative, not just do the same thing the same way. So I just wanted to say that's something that for me personally you could help with, in terms of that. So I'm going to end on a super positive note. Those are all things you can think about working on in the coming year, but great hires, great team. I'm looking at Jackie here. I'm looking at all our ACMs. The huge positivity, and frankly, Doug, your self-awareness is what's going to take us there, right? So thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, sure. All right. Anyone else want to weigh in? Go ahead. Councilwoman Taylor, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was a lot of stuff, and I will just say the only thing I would add for the next year is, based on your goals already, is a strategic plan. And I think I'm going to give you a task that is going to be very, very hard to manage because it involves us. But I would like to see our strategic plan guide everything we do, from the budget to all of our decisions, and you keeping us accountable for what we decide in those strategic plans, which is going to be like herding cats. But if anybody can do it, I believe you can do it. But I think that's going to be really important as we move forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Martinez, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just going off of the goals that you've already established, just making sure that we are able to keep supporting those businesses, whether it's the almost 3,000 new businesses licenses that we issued or the 17,000 businesses that were renewed, making sure that we're looking at ways to support entrepreneurs or small businesses here in our area and making sure that they have the information and structure that they need to be successful. For regionalization, similar to what Councilmember Dewar said, maybe getting more information and clarity on that and what the direction is there. I appreciate the involvement, language, access, and transparency with which the city is moving forward in the redistricting process and making sure that people are involved in that. And then with the stormwater utility fee, making sure we clearly outline what the plan is to get that initiated and passed and happening. Similar to what Councilmember Taylor said, making sure that the strategic plan and the master plan are what's guiding us as an organization, and looking forward to getting involved in that process this year and next year as we complete that. So thank you. I think you identified good things to move the city in a place to where it has been positioning itself and into the future.
Okay, Councilwoman Ebert.
So something I forgot to mention earlier was the code enforcement officers. That's something that, I was concerned about after we had the audit. And I just really appreciate that was something that we were able to, or that you were able to figure out how to add some more code enforcement officers just to kind of help with some issues or deficiencies we had there. So thanks for that too. And I think I would like also to have some additional meetings with you in strategic planning. That would be my only feedback, but also I just wanted to say thank you also for the numbers of, all the different types of service that we do or the city does. They're just incredible to see that, a lot of times we get people just yelling about their particular area, their potholes, things that need to be fixed. And, that's valid, but when you look big picture, it's incredible the work that, the team does and the direction you give to everyone. So again, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman Reese.
Thank you. I have a couple of additional comments. Mr. Thornley, one of the things that I have appreciated very much about the leadership change in the last several years has been your commitment to professional development for other people in the organization. And where I see that playing out is in the opportunities for people to attend different kinds of conferences and gatherings of like-minded professionals towards their degree study field can be something that they're pursuing, intellectually. But I think it matters. And the reason why I say that is because, and I'll give some anecdotal examples. Number one, I was in the airport flying somewhere and I saw Travis Truhill. And I think he's, is he here? Someone back there. Yeah, big guy, hard to miss. But I saw him at
He's scaring all the potholes into submission.
Yeah, exactly. he would too. He was going to rope a steer on Father's Day too. But I saw him and I said, hey, where are you going? Figuring he was going, where I was going to have some fun, do something. He said, no, I'm headed to Harvard University where I'm going to have the opportunity to grow as a professional. And I was struck by that because I think making sure you're investing in our people is incredibly crucial to their long-term success, and it also breeds the innovation that we are looking for. Ms. Turney is, I know she's got a really long title about Chief Innovation and Experience Officer. Part of that is this concept, right? And I know that people have gone to ICMA, they've gone to National League of Cities, they've gone to clerks conferences. All of these things are for the betterment of each individual person, but also us collectively. So we have to continue to make those opportunities and pave the road. I think it's also an incredible part of our commitment, diversity, equity, inclusion. Mrs. Sparza's office heads up this team. Super important, but those kind of connections through educational opportunities are the reason why we have an innovation and experience officer. It's why we have people at all levels. So get that further down into the next level of managers and just continue to grow them, because a person will, maybe they start as a liaison and they are someday the city manager, right? Through that process. And I believe strongly about that. And I also think that that is something that we can be proud of at every level. So continue to spread around those opportunities, especially because I think we are the ones who benefit from it. None of us want to be away from our family or our homes for extended periods of time, but it's the opportunity to learn that it creates the avenues for innovation. So that's an important part. And then the last thing I will say is, they have this expression that the days are long, but the years are short. Your time in this job, I hope, will be quite long in the number of years, but there has got to be some opportunity for you also not to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, be contemplating or grinding on this job. You have a beautiful family. You have commitments outside of this building that are important. I sometimes worry that you are too much in love with this city and the desire to see it be better, and that you have to make time for yourself. Because I'll get an email at 1 a.m. or something like that. I know we can auto send them later or do something. Just pretend that you're not working and thinking about this place at least at 1 a.m. And that's for you for the long term. And that's certainly something I want all of our employees to understand. We know that when you leave this building, very few of the people in this room turn off that switch and say that they're not still always contemplating the next project, the next meeting, the next thing. They're putting out a fire. Some of the folks in the thick orange line literally put in hours and hours into the safety apparatus of the city, our police and firefighters. You also have to make time for yourself. I don't know that balance is something you have yet struck. And if you're going to make it another 25 years in this career field, you are. I've sort of demanded it of you. But if you're going to make it that long, it will not be without its scars. It will not be without its battles and fights. And the way to stonewall yourself against that or steel yourself against it is to contemplate the ways in which this place is not everything. There are other things important to your life as well. And in fact, more so than the job, the career, the vocation you've chosen. So those are my thoughts, Madam Mayor, as I wrap up that element.
And if I can just build on that for a 30-second, I'm going to say something in the words of the great Mayor Martini, right? Who always said at every opportunity, but it's so applicable here, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It was his favorite saying, but it's so true based on what you just said. And I felt it too. You are running to fix everything yesterday. And I think you have a moment to take a breath and kind of take a longer term view to Councilmember Taylor and others who have talked about the strategic plan and just taking a moment to think about where we're going and how we're going to get there kind of longer term. So thank you.
All right, good. So some areas just to focus on as we move forward. One, maybe a little bit more raccoon sightings on social media under AJ. I think, and that's the other thing is I really like what you guys have done in that department of giving it a different voice and feel, because people are paying attention, whether they agree with it or not, they actually are like, oh, I got to pay attention. So good job, AJ. But I would just say, one of the things, and I like to constantly ask people, where sort of some of their concerns are. One of the things is special events. We've talked about this. I definitely think it needs an overhaul. I'm hearing that we don't feel like we are a special events city any longer, and we're making it a little more difficult. So I'd like to work with you on that. We've talked about it in great lengths, and so I want to make sure we're doing everything we can to revitalize downtown and continue to grow and expand on those events. And that's one area I'd like to see. And then I think we both have the same goals for downtown revitalization. It's really hard because I think it never moves fast enough. And so I know we share in that. So I just want to make sure that as we move forward this next year, we're really focusing on that. And part of that downtown revitalization, and we're in the works and we're having those meetings, but is also the safety aspect of our fire and our police, to making sure that we are doing everything we can to keep our city safe, and especially downtown, because I always say cities are downtowns are cities. Yeah, they're inside cities, so it's like very complex. But I think we're on the same page on that. But I just have to say it because I keep saying it, and I keep saying it, so I'm just kind of digging it in there for you. But I look forward to focusing on some of those issues. I mean, we've got really massive issues, obviously with the sewer and so many other things that are happening. We're getting a lot accomplished, and that's because of you. And so I'm very, very grateful. But I also am grateful to continue to work on the things that I know that we have the same vision for. So thank you. I would like to, okay, so I imagine, Madam Clerk, is there anything that we have to do now? No? Okay.
Do you want to, Doug, do you want to put your next step slide back up?
You got to do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You've done one.
Goals, upcoming, and change to annual. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking, and then council, you can weigh in. The normal 2.5 cost of living adjustment. I know you would like to give him a 25-year extension on his contract. I was thinking of a 2-year contract extension with a 1 year. Yeah, with a 1 year. I mean, you can go for the 25. I just think poor Doug. So that would be one thing, if it would be something that you would be amenable to. I haven't asked you, but is that something that you?
Yes,
I mean,
I would love
you
to
also have
stay.
to marry us too. So, would that be something you would?
Continued employment was one of my goals. We just didn't write it down.
Well, and I did research that one, that other jurisdictions have 2 years. So I figured that was something.
Madam Mayor,
Reese?
Madam
Yes.
Mayor, just for the record, the way City Manager's Thornley contract is currently scheduled, it's a rolling 2 years, which is, you can have a 2-year term under Nevada law. So as of July 1st, it rolls over and he gets a 2-year term. So that wouldn't be a change. You
Okay.
wouldn't have to change that.
All right, so you're stuck with us for 2 years.
Sweet.
Okay, and then, Shipman, let me ask you, and then the 1 year after that renewal? What is it saying
It's a
now?
rolling renewal. So as July 1st hits, and neither party elects to terminate or to not roll it over, then it'll stop there. But otherwise, it as of July 1st, it'll continue to be a 2-year term, and it resets.
Okay, so, and it will reset for another 2? Okay, got
Correct,
it. Thanks
yeah.
for the clarification. The other thing is, I would say I would be willing to do like a bonus instead of a raise. I don't know how council feels about that. Let me ask Councilman Reese. Do you have any thoughts there?
Well, I certainly am interested in in all of those things. I'm excited, Mr. Shipman, that your thought are about the 2 years. I think because of what I'll characterize as our flat budget and my desire to see us approach our employees in an equitable manner, I do think the mayor is right about a cost of living adjustment. It won't be that much of a bump because you're also paying the PERS issue as well. So I think for my part, Madam Mayor, I am interested in some sort of performance one-time compensation award. The other thing I think is, and I was just looking at this as we look at our region and think about other persons similarly situated, I think, Mr. Thornley, when we had you start now, I guess it's been almost 3 years fully, or maybe it's a little shade, 2.5. It's a little shade less than that. I think our the severance package that we put into the agreement at the outset was a bit light, but we did that, I suppose, as we were both test driving this relationship. So I would like to see that the severance clauses in the contract are moved to the 12-month range, not I think it's currently set at 5 months. And the reason why I think that's true, Mr. Thorne, is I think there is something to be said about your good-naturedness, in spite of the fact that sometimes people are not as good-natured towards you. I think that there are serious and challenging issues for leaders at the top of organizations and government across this country, and including here. I see it in the paper. I see it in various blogs where there's some relentless attacking of our top manager type person. So it could be a general manager, it could be a director, but at the top. And so I think that the severance parts of these contracts is really designed to protect and insulate you from the vagaries of that kind of system and from any one particular member who has an axe to grind. I think that that is a fair thing that I am interested in. So those are my thoughts, Madam Mayor. I think.
So I
Those
think
are
you're
my
right.
thoughts.
Thank you so much. I would agree with everything you said. I also think I would be comfortable with 10% bonus and no raise. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know where you guys want to go with that. I also do want to say I would like to work with Norma as we move forward. This is sort of like this awkward time that we sort of look at this and just wonder, is there some other way to, because it's really at our discretion. And I want people to know that we're being thoughtful and responsible when it comes to our budgets and finance and these raises. So I would kind of like to look at a different process. Even with the clerks, it was like, you know, she really should have been here a long time ago. We didn't do that, and that really wasn't fair to her. So I'd like to look at ways that we actually do this a little bit better and more equitable, or just some benchmark.
You're gonna have an opportunity to do that across the entire constellation of folks here at the organization.
Okay.
In the relatively near future.
That would be great.
This calendar year for sure.
That would be great, because I just don't love this process. I think there's a much better way to do it. So.
And Mr. Thornley, you're talking about like the class and comp study and
Yes.
the results of that. In part, the reason why I mentioned that is because I think, I'll give you a very, again, small example, but several of our city attorneys, I think, are underpaid. And I think that this is what concerns me when you have a 20-year employee who is not on par with peers either in the organization or even outside of it. I'm not trying to compare private attorneys to public employees, but we have fine attorneys in this organization, and I think that the class and comp study is going to be an important part of that. That's why I mention it, not because it's part of this discussion, but you've highlighted something. The mayor wants us to make sure that we are thinking about all of the organization. We only get to direct the activities of two persons, our excellent clerk and you. You are the one who's going to be tasked with turning around and looking at the broader organizational structures, and that includes our attorney's office.
You had me at pay lawyers more.
Well, a lawyer would say that.
I was going to say, Carl.
How about
Carl's
pay
ears were
Mr.
like, what?
Shipman more? I mean,
Yes.
there we are with that. I'll just say it. But
All right, Councilmember Dewar, go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
thank you. Well, last year we took a big step to get equity for your role vis-a-vis other directors in the region. So I was very pleased with that. This year, I think it is very important to reflect where we are. We just adopted a bunch of 2.5% COLAs. I think that's appropriate. We expect everybody to do a great job, and we're recognizing the COLAs really to deal with the economy, right, to reflect what's happening. I'm totally fine with a bonus. I would guess I'd rather not deal with a percentage per se. You said, Madam Mayor, in lieu of, but I think we should give a COLA of 2.5%. And I'm totally fine with a bonus in recognition of the great work. I'd like to see it between $10,000 and $20,000. I don't want it to be too much because, again, I'm very sensitive to the entire pay structure here. And whether or not a bonus is part of the thing you get PERS on, no. But it is money in the pocket. So, and 10% is around in the $20,000 range. So, I don't know. I'm
That's why
fine.
and I looked at what others were
What's
doing.
that?
I looked at others, and that's kind of where they always went with 10.
Yeah.
Just to see, so it was like standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I mean, that would be around 20,000. So I'm fine with that. If I don't know the number, I know it's higher than 200,000. So I don't know the exact number today. But anyway, those are things, and I'm fine with the extended severance. I agree. There's many vagaries, and you also work for an elected board, which will change. You know, 4 people are up for election next cycle, just in a year. So who knows who those are? Hopefully my colleagues, but you don't know, and what that brings. You know, suddenly your boss may be different. So it's risk, right? Working for an elected body. So.
Okay, go. Do you want me to throw it
Madam
out
Mayor,
there, or
I'll
you
try
can
to
throw it
get
out?
to a motion if that is the
Sure, go
will
ahead.
of the body. And in recognition of Mr. Thornley's outstanding year, I would, in a motion identifying change to annual compensation, I would move that this body approve a 2.5% cost of living adjustment to Mr. Thornley's contract. I would indicate a 10% performance bonus of one-time dollars based on base salary, and then 12-month severance. Those would be the recommendations that I would see change to the contract. And I think that incorporates my colleagues' comments and thoughts.
Okay.
If
so
I've missed anything, please let me know.
Okay, thank you so much. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, congratulations. Hope that was painless. Yay. You survived. I saw that.
Elmo likes the ascot.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate everyone being here and being very supportive. And just one last note, let me just tell you something. If Doug wasn't doing right by you, he wouldn't be here. So you guys, you know, are his boss in a lot of ways. So just remember that. But it is like great.
Well, it's an important principle called managing
Yeah.
your boss. So
That's right, and it means a lot. It means a lot to me, what you think of your leader. That means a lot. So I just want all of you to know that I think it just makes me feel really, really positive and good that we're going in the right direction. I've never seen the city at this level before, and I know Rebecca Venus is sitting there going, yes, and we know it. We know it. So I'm really grateful for all of you, and it means a lot that you were here and you took time out of your day and your work to be here. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Go somewhere else before you.
I think you might cry. All right, Madam Clerk, setting it back to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With that, we're moving into our final item of the day, which is J1, closing public comment. We'll give it just a moment for the room to kind of settle back in, but we have two public commenters today that are live. We have Destiny Ramirez and Damian Cole.
Yay!
And we do have one participant via Zoom, which we'll transition to in just a moment. All right, Destiny, if you'd like to approach the podium. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin speaking.
Yeah, that it'll move all the way around. You can do anything with you want it.
Okay.
You just got to get close enough to we can hear you.
So my name is Destiny Ramirez. I'm a current student at Proctor Hook High School. I'm here today to talk about an issue that affects everyone who lives in our community, the state of our roads. As we all know, our roads are in dire need of repair, and it's not just a matter of inconvenience, it's a matter of safety. In the past year alone, there has been several serious car accidents in Sun Valley, and many of these accidents were caused by poor conditioning on our roads. Potholes, cracks, and uneven surfaces can cause drivers to lose control of their vehicles and collide with other cars or objects on the road. One specific tragic example is the accident that occurred on Sun Valley Boulevard last month. A driver hit a large pothole and lost control of their car, colliding with an oncoming vehicle. Both drivers were seriously injured and had to be taken to the hospital. This is just one of many examples of the dangers that our roads pose to us as drivers, passengers, and pedestrians. We cannot continue to ignore this issue and hope that it goes away. Furthermore, the poor state of our roads also affects our community's economy. Businesses in our area rely on efficient transport links to move goods and services. And the poor state of our roads means that transportation costs are higher and goods take longer to reach their destinations. This puts our local business at a disadvantage and ultimately affects our community economic growth. I urge our local government to prioritize the repair of our roads in Sun Valley. We cannot continue to live with roads that jeopardize our safety and community's economic prosperity. It is time for us to take action and invest in the future of our community. In conclusion, the state of our roads is an issue that affects us all. We cannot afford to ignore this any longer. We need to take action now to ensure that our community has safety, efficient, and pleasant roads to travel on. Thank you.
Great job. That's exactly right. And I think there's someone behind you that also shares that passion.
Damian Cole.
Yeah. Damien, come on up. It's so great to see you. I'm so glad you're here in public comment.
Ms. Ramirez,
You
make
never
sure.
come, and I'm so glad you are.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I guess it's an honor to be here too, and I'm sorry I haven't been too active lately because
That's all right. We're
I've
glad
been
you're jumping back in.
back to work, demanding schedule. I wish that the city staff would have stayed around for this comment because they need to hear this.
They'll hear it. They'll hear
Okay,
it.
hello out there. So, for the record, Damian Cole, your wannabe city micromobility planner. I would like to talk about the current proposals between the joint efforts between RTC and the city of Reno regarding the downtown micromobility corridor creations. I'm taking my glasses off because I can't read very well with them. The one issue specifically I want to talk about today in the 3 minutes I have is Vine Street. And the reason why I think creating bike facilities on the Vine Street Bridge is absolutely an insanely horrible idea. And the reason why I bring it up to the table today is because I'm trying to figure out why it was brought to the table at all in the planning stages. Why do I say this? Because the design of the bridge, mid-1960s construction, it was created during the I-80 freeway construction as a way to be able to get to and from top and bottom, north and south of that. No safety facilities there at all. Paint is not an infrastructure. The current proposal is to put a line of paint on each side to tell drivers this is where the bikes go, this is where the cars go. There's no sidewalks. The railing is about maybe between 2 and 3 feet tall. If a car hits you, you're going 30 feet over into 6th Street. Bad. No space to escape. If you have to stop for a moment, it's also a very steep arch compared to other bridges in the area. Where does it land? It lands on University Terrace, and it doesn't go where people really need to go. Okay, I'll explain that in future detail. What's available nearby? 2 streets over, 1 bridge over. You got Bell, and then you got Washington Street Bridge, double the width, next to a park. Goes all the way up to San Rafael and still goes all the way down to Riverside Drive. It's easy to get to. It still has an arch, but hardly as much. It's not a clear span bridge like the other one is. So that means that there's a post in the middle of the freeway that keeps it up, strong, sturdy. All that needs to be done there is create the bike facility, and you're done. Same situation. It's also along a bus route. It goes down to Lunsford Park, like I mentioned. 4th and Washington Street already has pedestrian facilities that calm traffic a little bit, so it's better for bikes to cross Washington down to 2nd and 1st and Jones in that area. Has existing pedestrian facilities already. It's got sidewalks on the other side. Very wide capacity. AADT is definitely not near capacity. And the question I really want to ask is, why would RTC even want bikes on Vine Street? I'm trying to stay away from conspiratorial language. I'm going to say I hope it is not a misappropriation of funds to repave the asphalt on a crumbling bridge under the guise of micromobility. I'm hoping that's not what it is, because right next door you have better options that would be way better for everyone. Mm-hmm. There is, I want to mention, there is a 4-foot wide, 5-foot wide sidewalk on one side with a railing. Great for pedestrians, and it's got the thing. If that could be widened, in other words, if it were a larger project where you're actually fixing up the bridge and making it bigger, you could widen that, make it 10 to 15 feet wide, and then have people land somewhere near 6th Street where the back road is to where Starbucks and all of those other things are at. So yeah.
Damien, let me ask you, have you weighed in on the survey?
Not yet. I'm actually going,
got to have you do that.
I will.
Super important. The other thing I need you to do is reach out to Alexis Hill, Mariluz Garcia, Devin's on there with me, and then who else? Oh, Ed Lawson. because one of
one
the things I love about you is you make a lot of sense, and I 100% agree with you on the Vine Bridge
Glad
issue.
to hear that.
Totally. So, but I need you to really be on the RTC side. So, because I think that that's where it's critical, and I don't want this to get forgotten about. And sometimes I have a lot going on,
can understand.
If you can help keep us together over there and making sure that this is brought up in our discussion. Councilman Reese is with me over there, so I think you bring up super valid points. But I need you to come to RTC and speak in public comment.
I will.
If you can, whenever you can. But I have to have you do the survey.
Well, I'd like to also find out when the meetings are, things like that. And I am on CMAC, but we're only at advisory capacity. So,
but it's important. A lot of times, you guys do a much better job of shaping the things that we don't typically see because you're writing it every day, you're experiencing and using it. So you're going to have a different perspective.
Yeah, the reason why I brought this up, the whole purpose of this entire project, it says on the website, is to create low stress facilities, blah, 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 for children, seniors, and disabled community.
We're probably doing the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Damien, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thanks.
Go grab your future constituent over there, my friend. All right.
All right, we have
Thank you.
Val Tilson via Zoom. We try to promote them. All right, Dora Martinez via Zoom. Ms. Martinez, please unmute, state your name for the record, and begin speaking.
Good afternoon, Dora Martinez for the record. I just want to thank, good afternoon to you, Mayor Shivi and Vice Mayor, the council members, sorry. I want to thank you, Vice Mayor Reese, for acknowledging the hardship that people with disability with service animals are going through with this transportation. While it is important to know that it is against, ADA violation when people refuse to offer trips with people with disability and their service dogs. And I do know that there are some folks out there who will say that their dog is a service dog when it's really not. And it's kind of hard for us to advocate for us. And then we end up being the bad person. So I thank you for doing that. And also I want to congratulate Doc Thornley, who is always on social media with me. And sometimes when I say something, he does respond. And so I appreciate that of him. And thank you to Naomi Dur for a wonderful poem. And thank you so much. And also to my awesome ward councilwoman who made sure that the sidewalk on Coit Plaza is getting to be fixed. And I want to give a big shout out to Kurt. Oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher his last name. He's one of the engineer, Dimitri, I think.
Dietrich.
Thank you. Yes. He called yesterday because I have put in a concern about West 7th Street and McCarran, those 4 audible pedestrian signal lights that talks. Sometimes it doesn't talk, it just vibrates. So when people are crossing the street, they don't know which street to cross. And I went there with an elderly woman and I saved her because she was crossing the wrong way and we didn't want her to get field. So I appreciate Kurt for giving me a call back and getting back to get that talking again really loud, so people who have hard of hearing could hear it. So thank you and have a great weekend.
All right, we're going to try Val Tilson one more time. Val, if you're receiving a prompt to unmute, can you please select that and then begin speaking?
Thank you.
All right, Vice Mayor Reese, with that, we have no additional public comment at this time. For the
Madam
record,
Clerk, Ms. Tilson, I think knows how to get a hold of me. I'll make sure that I communicate whatever issue she has legitimate issues about a number of different things affecting mobile home communities and affordable housing. So I've communicated with her routinely, and I'll continue to do that.
thank you so much. And Vice Mayor Reese, for the record, we did receive 2 additional comments after 4 p.m. yesterday, June 13th, that could have been associated with an item or general in nature. 1 in favor, 1 concern. Those have been distributed to the Reno City Council. Additionally, we did receive 3 voicemails which have been transcribed and have been distributed to the Reno City Council, but will not be played at this time. And with that, we are looking at item K, which is adjournment of this meeting.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Ebert, a second by Councilmember Martinez. Any additional comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.